Live from the broadcast center in Los Angeles, this is KCAL9 News at 8.
Now at 8, the votes are in. It is election night here in California. We are live as the ballots are being counted.
One of the races is to run LA. Polls predict Karen Bass and Rick Caruso will face off for mayor, but one could take all tonight.
That's right. The top cop in LA County also on the ballot. Sheriff Alex Villanueva trying to hold on to his job tonight among a crowded field of candidates. Welcome to KCAL9 News at 8, streaming live on CBS News Los Angeles. I'm Susie Sa.
And I'm Juan Fernandez, in tonight for Jeff Vaughn. Well, California's primary election is in the books. Polls are officially closed.
And we have team coverage as votes are being counted right now for major races like governor, LA mayor, and LA County sheriff. We begin with KCAL9's Joy Benedict. She's live in Downey tonight at the Tally Operations Center. Joy?
That's right, guys. This is where all the action is happening tonight. The polls did officially close just a few moments ago, but we are live, as you mentioned, outside the Tally Operations Center. You see they have the sheriff's department out here. They have a big media entrance. They just let everybody in maybe 30 seconds or so ago. But inside in a few minutes, first they'll start tallying the vote by mail ballots, and then the other ballots from all the different areas will start flooding in here. But take a look at this video, as it wasn't too long ago that we were over in Sherman Oaks with some last-minute voters. And let me tell you, that particular place there on Van Nuys Boulevard was pretty packed, as you can see, as folks were waiting in line just to cast their ballot themselves. And talking to many who were coming out last minute, they say they preferred to do it there in person. It just felt a little bit more real. And they said these local elections were just too important to pass.
Because there's a lot of bad stuff happening in the world right now. And I guess to try and find the right people to fix those problems. It's pretty depressing being like a young person and like seeing like the world burning around you in like so many different ways, and like hopefully like the small changes make a difference.
What are your biggest issues of concern?
Probably for crime reduction and homelessness reduction as well.
The homelessness and crime, because it seemed, because of COVID, it seemed like people have lost their minds, and things that wouldn't have happened 4 years ago is happening now.
Now, although voter turnout is usually low in a non-presidential election year, this is also a primary, all of these things taking into account. But nonetheless, the folks that we were talking to or speaking with when they were at the polls tonight, they say they were very involved. They wanted to make sure that their vote and their opinion mattered, and they wanted to make sure that they cast that ballot before 8 p.m. And you are hearing that really all over Los Angeles County, as everyone has a reason for going ahead and filling in that little bubble box and making sure that their vote counts. Guys.
All right, Joy, thank you so much. Now to the race for LA City Mayor Rick Caruso, spending a record $40 million of his own money on his campaign. He is facing stiff competition tonight from Congresswoman Karen Bass and LA City Council member Kevin De Leon.
If someone gets more than 50% of the vote tonight, he or she wins. If not, the top two will face each other in November.
KCAL9 political reporter Tom Wade is live at the Grove tonight, where Rick Caruso will be watching the returns come in. Hi, Tom.
Hi there, Susie. Yeah, not a bad place to watch the returns come in, right? The Grove, of course, this is one of Caruso's most iconic properties. He will be taking that podium just behind me here at the Grove. Probably the next hour sometime. We're told around 8:45. We'll have to keep you posted on that. Earlier today, he was in Boyle Heights casting his ballot there. As you said, he spent a lot of money in this race so far, $40 million. He said he did so because he needed to get his name out there. And when he started out, not a lot of people knew who he was compared to other candidates who have been in the public eye for a long time. So he said he needed to spend that money. Just to give you a sense of how much more he spent than his closest competitor, Karen Bass, well, she spent about $3.2 million on this race so far. So that just gives you a sense of the huge differential on the spending in this campaign. Caruso also picking up some impressive endorsements in terms of celebrity endorsements. Snoop Dogg, Sweet Alice Harris, and also the Kardashians endorsing him as well. We'll see if that really makes any impact. That's just to name a few. And Caruso really saying that he's proud of his campaign so far, starting out at just 6% in the polls, and he says now being, pretty much neck and neck with Congresswoman Karen Bass. He feels pretty good about where he stands at this point. We'll, of course, bring you any updates and his comments when they happen. Reporting live in the Fairfax District at the Grove, I'm Tom Waite. Back to you.
All right, Tom, thank you so much. And now to Hollywood, where Karen Bass is holding her election night party.
KCAL9's Leslie Maring is there live for us tonight. Leslie.
Juan, Susie, well, yeah, now that the polls are closed, the question comes down to, did Karen Bass do enough to garner that support from voters? And did she make the right decision to leave Congress? Well, you can see behind me, the stage is set at her event tonight. And she is in the building, we know, but she has yet to make an appearance yet in front of cameras. We do not expect that until later tonight, in fact. But earlier today, we were there as she casted her vote. Go ahead and take a look at this. This is some video of her casting her vote at the Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Mall alongside her daughter and her grandson, who you see there wearing a Dodgers jersey. Early in the morning, she also met with faith leaders for a community prayer, and Reverend Jesse Jackson stopped by her headquarters to show his support. Over the weekend, Bass said she was cautiously optimistic about her marginal lead against billionaire developer Rick Caruso. The Congresswoman has spent a little over $3 million on her campaign, only about 1/10 of what Caruso has spent. For many, Bass has become a well-known name because of her 12 years in Congress. A top reason she says she decided to run when she sat down with us for an interview was because of the homeless crisis that the city of LA is facing. Back out here live, you can hear the music. Again, as I said, the stage is set. People just began to trickle in. The event didn't begin here until 8 p.m. Bass's people do tell us that she could take the stage by 10 tonight. Reporting live, Leslie Maring, KCAL9 News.
We're all waiting for those numbers. All right, Leslie, thank you. The other big race tonight, the top cop in L.A. County.
That's right. Sheriff Alex Villanueva trying to fend off a crowded field of current and former law enforcement. KCAL9 senior reporter Ross Palumbo is live at the sheriff's party tonight in downtown L.A. Ross?
Well, you can probably hear it and see it behind me, but this party has already started. The polls closed just a few minutes ago, and this crowd is already getting riled up. In fact, take a look at this over here. The sign is up, the balloons are ready to drop, and this stage is set. It's set tonight, they say, for success. In fact, just a few minutes ago, take a look at this. The sheriff himself walking in here to this room to a cheering crowd. You know, this is the same restaurant, City's restaurant, that the sheriff came out of nowhere in 2018 to become a challenger to the incumbent sheriff, Jim McDonnell, surprising everyone. And tonight, they believe here in this restaurant that he's going to have the exact same luck. In fact, earlier today, look at this, we caught up with the sheriff this morning while he was casting his ballot, and we asked him whether he was confident that he was going to have the top spot. He told us he's not only confident that he's going to have the top spot, but he still believes he's going to get over 50% and win it all.
Well, it's going to be up to the people. I'm cautiously optimistic that we can end it today, yes. It's a whole new day. This is 2022. The whole defunding of law enforcement and cops are bad and let's get rid of them is not going to sell in 22. I think people want to be safe primarily, and that includes everybody.
All right, the sheriff right now is upstairs here watching and waiting for the returns to come in. Down here on the main floor, this party keeps getting bigger and bigger. In fact, we just met this woman. How you doing, ma'am?
Hi, how are you? I'm doing great.
Now, you spoke with the sheriff when he first came in.
Yes, sir.
He seems confident.
Very, 100%. Yeah!
Do you think he's going to get over 50% and win the whole thing?
Yeah!
All right, thank you very much. Well, you can get a good sense exactly how the crowd is riled and completely behind the sheriff. But Juan and Susie, remember, it's a different year. So much has changed since 4 years ago, and we will be detailing that all night long. For now, though, this really is live in East LA. Throw it back to you.
All right, Ross, thank you so much. And a candidate hoping to unseat Villanueva is former police chief Robert Luna from Long Beach.
KCAL9's Rick Montanez live in Long Beach with more for us. Rick.
Yeah, guys, we are outside of the home of Robert Luna, and he is, of course, having an intimate gathering inside his house right now. And there are other candidates, though. Luna is one of 8 that is hoping to unseat the incumbent, Sheriff Villanueva. These are the 8 candidates on the ballot running to take over the LA County Sheriff's Department, each of them with years of law enforcement experience. Among them, only one candidate has never worked for LASD. Retired Long Beach Police Chief Robert Luna.
Engage the community on a very different level in some of the most violent reporting districts.
LAX Police Chief Cecil Rambo says he's ready to move departments to serve the community as a whole.
It was just natural for me to want to give back to the community and work with the community. And I'm from the community. They're part of me.
The candidates are not shy in their disapproval of the current sheriff, including one of his former commanders, Eli Vera.
He's the most divisive person that I've ever met.
Among the list of other candidates, Britta Steinbrenner, who led teams of deputies during the civil unrest of 2020.
We were ready.
Candidates with different approaches and different ideas to curb crime across LA County. And former police chief Robert Luna here in Long Beach at a small gathering at his home, just trying to be comfortable and wait for those election results to come in. And of course, we'll be keeping an eye on things and get some reaction from out here in Long Beach. For now, I'm Rick Montanez. Let's go back to you.
All right, Rick, thank you so much. And stay with us. Our primary election coverage is just getting started tonight on KCAL9.
As the votes are counted in, our expert political analysts are weighing in as well on what to expect. So stick around. That's coming up next.
The CBS News app, streaming CBS News Los Angeles.
And KCAL9.
What does that mean? Hundreds of firefighters.
Oh no!
Only on KCAL9.
CBS News Los Angeles and KCAL9. Streaming on the CBS News app and Pluto TV.
You know, it has been a time of change and uncertainty, but through it all, one thing remains the same.
Our commitment to bringing you the facts with honest, straightforward reporting.
And at CBS, we are part of a proud tradition, reporting the news with integrity.
And we'll continue to ask the tough questions, and we're committed to finding answers.
So as things continue to change, stay connected, stay informed.
Stay with CBS2 News at 5 and 6.
And the CBS Evening News at 6:30.
Got your phone handy? Of course you do. Scan this right here. Download the CBS LA app. And just like that, you're connected to all the best local news and videos. Now, if only everything were this easy.
And now for a closer look at tonight's primary races and how things are shaping up, we are joined now by our political analyst, political science professor Fernando Guerra with Loyola Marymount University, law expert on elections, Loyola law professor Jessica Levinson, and Jennifer Cryer, a political science professor at USC. Thank you all for being with us tonight. We'll start with you, Jennifer. In the 2018 primary, California voter turnout was 37%. We are looking at a very lower than average number this year. Why so? What is it, Jennifer?
Off-cycle elections typically bear these low turnout numbers, and right now we're seeing 4 in 5 Californians have not returned their absentee or vote by mail ballots just yet. And that's what we ought to expect in these off-cycle elections. They tend to favor the organized and the highly partisan. And so while this is much lower than usual for an off-cycle election, it definitely isn't unexpected, but it could bear some difficult outcomes for some of the candidates who might rely on the communities that aren't turning out.
I'll throw the other question to you, Fernando. What happened to Kevin De Leon? He was one of California's most powerful politicians as the leader of the Senate. He's only the major Latino candidate in this race. LA is nearly 50% Latino. What happened?
So, well, number one, the election isn't over. I don't think he's obviously going to be one of the top two, but I think he'll get in double digits. Latinos are 50% of the population, but only 35% of the voters. Their turnout rate will be a little bit lower, but turnout rate's going to be a little bit higher than people expect. The last time we had an open mayoral election, turnout was 23%. I predict, given the numbers that I've seen, it'll be way above that. The last time we had a gubernatorial election where the incumbent governor was running for re-election, that was Governor Brown in 2014, only 17% of voters turned out in LA County. We're going to have it much higher than that. So it's not going to be record-breaking, but it also is not going to be a historic low. That should bode well for Kevin, but not enough to put him in the top two.
Jessica, how do you think redistricting or redrawing of congressional district lines has changed the landscape of some of these races tonight?
Well, I think, in fact, not that much, in part because we've seen a few cycles where we've had this independent redistricting commission, in part because there's only so much an independent redistricting commission can do to make some districts more competitive, because people of like minds tend to live together. In part because that's not what the Independent Redistricting Commission was actually charged with doing, making districts more competitive. But we do see it, I think, actually with respect to the mayor's race. We have Karen Bass, who I think was looking at her future district and made a decision for a number of reasons that instead of defending a district in, I think, what was going to be a more difficult race, decided instead that she was going to run for mayor. We'll see tonight whether or not that's a calculation that paid off.
Jennifer, my next question is for you. With Rick Caruso, the candidate for mayor, spending $40 million of his own money, what are the implications of this going into November, into future races? Does it prove that it doesn't matter what party you're in? I mean, you know, obviously California Democrats outnumber Republicans 2-1, but when you have that much money, does it matter?
Yeah, the research shows that by and large, incumbency, name recognition, and money are the things that really push a candidate over the line. And right now we're seeing a race where two of those findings are going head to head. We have Karen Bass, who has established name recognition, and Caruso has leveraged his own resources. And so typically we would expect that these things sort of intermingle, but this is going to be a great test case to see if all it takes now is a set amount of resources separate from party and separate from some of the networks that parties bring to the table. I think it's going to be very interesting to see and could foment a rise in candidates who want to take this approach.
Fernando, Republicans have not won a statewide race since 2006, as Governor Schwarzenegger did. Could this be the year for Republicans?
Not likely. I don't think they're competitive in any statewide election. People talk about the state controller, but that Republican that's running will come in first in the primary because there's many Democrats running. But once a Democrat is on the ballot against him in November, he or she will beat him, and I believe handedly, because it's just not a high profile, and Democrats are just going to vote for that Democrat nominee. So I do not expect any Republicans to be elected statewide at all.
I mean, even without the clear favorite Democrat in that state controller's race, Fernando?
That's right. So it's a vacancy. It's the only statewide election right now where there's a vacancy. Betty Yee was termed out. But again, the guy that is running, well known amongst academics and others, but the voters don't know him, and he's not going to have the money. He'll be lucky to spend $3 million statewide. And we just talked about Karen Bass only spending $3 million for the entire city. And so I doubt very much that he'll be able to get his message out. And if people don't know, they say, who do I support? A Democrat or Republican? Those are the cues that they depend on, and that Democrat's going to win, and I predict handedly.
All right. Thank you to Fernando, Jennifer, and Jessica. We will check in with you a little bit later on this newscast.
All right, now to some breaking news coming into our newsroom, and here it is. The Associated Press projecting that Governor Gavin Newsom will move on to the general election. Right now, as you see here, he is the top vote getter, followed by Brian Daly and Jenny Ray LaRue with 4% of the vote there. Again, the Associated Press projecting Governor Gavin Newsom moving on to the general election in November. As you see there, so far right now, he is the top vote getter with over 229,000 votes at this hour. All right, now to the race for an open seat on the LA County Board of Supervisors. If someone gets more than 50% of the vote tonight, he or she will win. If not, as we've been mentioning, the top two will face each other off in November.
That's right. KCAL9's Lori Perez is with one of the leading candidates and joins us live tonight from West Hollywood at an election night event for Lindsay Horvath. Lori?
Guys, I'm having a little bit of trouble hearing you because, as I'm sure you can hear, the party has already begun. Just moments ago, Lindsay Horvath did walk into Rocco's here in West Hollywood. She got the LA Times endorsement, but most experts agree this is a competitive race, as it should be. The race for the seat in LA County's 3rd Supervisorial District might not be as sexy or maybe as heated as the race for mayor or sheriff, but some would argue it is the most important race we'll be watching tonight. With 2 million residents and a budget larger than the budgets of 25 states, the Board of Supervisors' 3rd District is huge, stretching from Malibu and Santa Monica all the way to Chatsworth and Porter Ranch. And within those borders, big issues, none more pressing than a homeless emergency. 3 of the candidates looking to tackle those challenges in the 3rd are State Senator Bob Hertzberg, West Hollywood Councilwoman Lindsay Horvath, and State Senator Henry Stern. On homelessness, their ideas are variations on a theme of accessibility and accountability.
We talk about urgency, and this report that comes out, this Blue Ribbon Commission, talks about coming up with another solution in 39 months. Not happening. Not possible.
It's really focusing on the individuals and their individual needs. It's meeting people where they are with those services and supports. That's what's really what really sets us apart.
Do we have the people to be relentless?
No, we have about 30 people working for the county's entire mobile psychiatric team. It's called the Home Team, and they're focused mostly on Skid Row. Like, the Valley has nobody.
Now, Horvath and her team are feeling optimistic. As I mentioned, they arrived just moments ago. This room behind me is slowly filling up. They are anxious to see some results come down early. We are live in West Hollywood. I'm Lori Perez. Back to you.
All right, Lori, thank you so much. And now to the race for the U.S. Senate for the junior Senate position. Alex Padilla looks like with 53% of the vote will be getting that full term that he was asking, but he will be moving on to November. He was the one who was appointed by Governor Newsom. Mark Muser, a constitutional attorney out of Pasadena, in second place right now with 16% of the vote. And Cord Williams, a chiropractor from Carlsbad, with 6% of the vote right now. Going for the gold and now paying the price.
An arrest made in an Olympic theft, but tonight the medal still missing.
Also, a plane slams into a backyard in Hemet. A witness describes the frightening scene. Next at 8.
The CBS News app, streaming CBS News Los Angeles.
And KCAL9.
What does that mean?
Hundreds of firefighters.
Oh no!
Only on KCAL9.
CBS News Los Angeles and KCAL9. Streaming on the CBS News app and Pluto TV.
Got your phone handy? Of course you do. Scan this right here. Download the CBS LA app. And just like that, you're connected to all the best local news and videos. Now, if only everything were this easy.
Of each other today. The Angels had a great start to the season, but then came their current 12-game losing streak. They finished the 2020 and 2021 seasons below 500 and are in danger of doing so again this year. The team announced Phil Nevin has been named interim manager. Laker legend Derek Fisher took over as head coach of the Sparks in 2019 and as general manager in 2020. He finished his career with the Sparks with a 54-46 record. The Sparks named assistant Fred Williams as his interim replacement.
An arrest tonight in the theft of an Olympic gold medal. U.S. women's volleyball player Jordan Poulter says someone stole her gold medal from her car last month in Anaheim. Well, after several weeks of searching, Anaheim police arrested 31-year-old Jordan Fernandez.
But the medal is still missing tonight. Detectives are working with Fernandez to retrieve the medal. Poulter is also offering a $1,000 reward in the case.
More numbers coming in tonight as California voters decide the 2022 primary election.
Director of Elections and Surveys for CBS News, Anthony Salvanto, joins us live from New York with insight on how some races could affect the country. Stay with us. That's next, right here at 8.
You know, it has been a time of change and uncertainty, but through it all, one thing remains the same.
Our commitment to bringing you the facts with honest, straightforward reporting.
And at CBS, we are part of a proud tradition, reporting the news with integrity.
And we'll continue to ask the tough questions, and we're committed to finding answers.
So as things continue to change, stay connected, stay informed.
Stay with CBS2 News at 5 and 6.
And the CBS Evening News at 6:30.
The CBS News app, streaming CBS News Los Angeles.
And KCAL9.
What does that mean? Hundreds of firefighters.
Oh no! Only on KCAL9.
CBS News Los Angeles and KCAL9. Streaming on the CBS News app and Pluto TV.
Let's go to CBS Director of Elections and Surveys, Anthony Salvanto. He joins us live tonight from New York. Anthony, thanks for being with us.
Pleasure. How are you?
Fantastic. Thank you. Let's start with the governor's race then. First in the race for governor, what should Governor Newsom be looking for towards November?
Well, you know, we are saying he is through to the to November in the top two primary. That's not going to surprise a lot of people. Look, you know, he survived the recall very easily. He'll be widely expected to get reelected in November. You know, you're seeing obviously a wide margin, a very wide margin between him and the rest of the field. You know, one of the things about California and the dynamic that you're going to see, though, going forward, not just for the governor, but in a lot of these congressional districts we're watching tonight, certainly in the LA mayor's race, you're going to be hearing a lot about crime. You're going to be hearing certainly about the economy. But, you know, I want to focus just to sort of set a context here on a couple of issues like crime, like gun violence, which has been so much on everybody's minds of late. And a couple of things that I think inform what the nation is looking at, as well as we watch California, are what to do about, in this case, you know, what to do about gun violence. We do see partisan splits on that. We see partisan splits, and I've got this recent poll up behind me, with large majorities of Democrats and a smaller majority of Republicans believing that gun violence can, in fact, be prevented. And one of the things that is going to really be a big thing as we go forward in all of these primaries also is what does the Republican Party do with candidates who they see as either loyal or disloyal to former President Trump? And what we saw in our polling is that, you know, there's a mix. There's some folks who say, well, if a candidate's not loyal to the president, well, do nothing, just accept those views. But there's a sizable 4 in 10 that had told us this spring and this winter that they wanted to support opponents, their opponents in the primaries. And that kind of informs context, again, not just in California, but throughout the country, about what people on the Republican side are looking for as they go through these primaries, folks.
And Anthony, in the U.S. Senate race, Alex Padilla also moving on to November, appointed to the job last year when Senator Kamala Harris became VP, running to serve out the rest of her term until January and then a full 6-year term after that. What can you tell us about this short-term election?
Yeah, that's right. Well, he's through in both. And, you know, one of the things that, again, statewide, like the governor's race, you kind of you do expect a Democrat to have a fairly straightforward path, right? And that's something that we've certainly seen with Padilla here tonight, with Newsom, et cetera. I think some of the other races, though, when we get to LA mayor, when we get to some of these competitive CDs, and you've got a bunch of them down there that we're going to talk about, right? We're going to talk about the California 45th. We're going to talk about the 49th, the CDs around LA, even stretching down to Orange County. All of those are going to tell a tale because we're going to be looking at California come November. We'll be here in a few months because that could be determinative on whether or not, you know, the Republicans can take the majority, as a lot of people think they will. And a lot of those California seats are going to be probably pivotal, if not in determining whether they get the majority, but maybe what the size of it will be as things look right now, guys.
Well, Anthony, along that same vein, the president's party typically loses congressional seats in the midterms, and President Biden is facing low approval ratings right now. How likely do you think Republicans will get the House in November as you're looking around the primaries in other parts of the country? Is this going to be a breakthrough year for Republicans, you think?
Well, you're certainly right about history. The president's party, a first-term president's party, often does lose seats. And what are the mechanics of that? One of them is turnout. You often see voters from the opposition party motivated to turn out. Well, they lost the last one, so now they're fired up to come out again. Whereas you often see slightly fewer from the president's party. Maybe they're exhausted from having, turned out the last time in such great numbers, that don't as much. So for the Democrats to be competitive here, they're really going to have to get turnout back up to what it was in 2018 when they did so well when turnout went up. That's the first key thing to watch. As far as the Republicans' chances as well, you have to look at the number of competitive districts. And after redistricting, I'm looking right now at maybe a couple of dozen seats on the outside that are truly competitive, and it might get even lower than that. But compared to other midterms, like compared to 2018, when there were twice as many seats that were competitive. So redistricting has taken a lot of seats, not so much there in California, a little bit, but certainly across the country. And it's sort of taken them out of the mix because people are so partisan now that the Republicans are going to vote for Republicans, Democrats for Democrats, and we kind of know which way so many of these seats are going to go all the way in advance. So you're not going to see as wide a playing field, and that may also advantage the Republicans too.
All right, Anthony Salvanto joining us live from New York City tonight. Thank you so much for your insight.
Thanks.
All right, in the race for LA City Mayor Rick Caruso, who spent a record $40 million of his own money, and Karen Bass, both of them, of course, wanting to be the top vote getters here.
That's right, and we're going to show you a graphic of the results as they're coming in. It's 8:36 right now, still definitely early on in the evening, that's for sure. We're looking at those early results coming in first. And if someone gets more than 50% of the vote tonight, he or she can win outright. If not, the top two will face each other in November. Let's go to KCAL9 political reporter Tom Waite live at the Grove for his election night party. Tom?
Hi there, Susie. It's kind of a dance party here at the Grove tonight. You probably can hear behind me. They've got a DJ playing some dance music here. Just behind me is the podium where Rick Caruso will take the stage. In a short time from now, they just made an announcement saying that they expect what they're calling the program to begin here in just a few minutes. Last night we were out with him on the campaign trail, his final night on the campaign trail. He went to a restaurant in Sylmar, met with folks there. He also went to an after-school program, a youth development program in Northridge, trying to really just get out there and meet as many voters as he could. As we've been reporting, there were signs as of last night that voter turnout was very low, at least so far. Not many ballots, at least relatively, had been returned. So he's really trying to get out there with his campaign staff and his volunteers and really sort of just get the votes out. As far as the money, you guys talked about this, and we've really discussed it a lot. Rick Caruso spent a record-breaking amount of money, $40 million, a little bit more than that. And to give you a sense, Karen Bass, the Congresswoman, of course, his closest competitor, is around $3.2 million. So it's been a very, very intense race in terms of the money. Live here at the Grove, I'm Tom Waite. Back to you, the studio.
All right, Tom, thank you so much for that. Apparently, we're getting some numbers in right now into our newsroom regarding that race between Caruso and Bass. It looks like 41% of the vote right now going for Rick Caruso, who, as we mentioned, spent $40 million in the last few months just to get his name out there, and 38% of the vote going for Karen Bass. And of course, these numbers are going to keep changing as the evening progresses, so stick around for that.
That's right. So Rick Caruso's fellow candidate, as we were just talking about, Congresswoman Karen Bass, watching the numbers come in tonight in Hollywood.
KCAL9's Leslie Marin, you're there at her election night party. What can you tell us?
Well, Juan, Susie, you can best believe Karen Bass and her entire campaign are watching those results come in. We know she is in the building. She has not yet made an appearance, but I can tell you we are in the heart of Hollywood. And for now, for her supporters, well, it is a bit of a party. I want to get out of the way to show you what's going on down here. You can see we are in the heart. Karen Bass and her entire campaign are watching those results come in. We know she is in the building. She has not yet made an appearance, but I can tell you we are in the heart of Hollywood. And for now, for her supporters, well, it is a bit of a party. I want to get out of the way to show you what's going on down here. You can see just a few people. There were a few people here at the bar, but I want to show you here is the stage where we believe Karen Bass will be speaking later tonight. You can see it is all set up. The balloons are out and you can hear the music. Now, we did speak to one of her supporters, Councilman Marquise Harris Dawson, who told us why he's supporting Karen Bass.
Well, I think Bass's approach is critical. First of all, she understands that it's not just one thing. It's part mental health, it's part the economy and the cost of housing, and then it's just part displacement. And all of those things require specific solutions. And you can't paint with one brush. You have to get in there like a surgeon with a scalpel and figure out which veins go where and which arteries go where. And that was really where Karen Bass has a superior skill.
You know, she talked a lot about wanting to make sure that the county and the city began to work together. Because she felt like maybe county and city weren't meshing. How do you feel when it comes to that?
Well, I totally agree with her that that's needed. I'm on the city council, and it's very frustrating, the lack of communication and the lack of coordination between the county and the city, much less the state and federal government. I was happy just last week, Thursday, we were here with Congressmember Bass, the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, the President of the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors, mental health providers, housing providers, all in one room, coming up with solutions that we can start to implement even before she's elected.
And I believe we do have some video of the Congresswoman casting her vote at the Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Mall earlier today, along with her daughter and grandson, who was wearing a Dodgers jersey. Back out here live again, like I said, Bass is in the building. The question will be, did she garner up enough support from LA voters tonight? And did she make the right decision to finally leave Congress after 12 years? Reporting live for now. Of course, we'll keep you updated out here when she does hit the stage later tonight. Reporting live, Leslie Manning. Back to you guys in the studio.
Right. Leslie, thank you.
More election results coming up next. Stay with us next at 8.
Got your phone handy? Of course you do. Scan this right here. Download the CBS LA app. And just like that, you're connected to all the best local news and videos. Now, if only everything were this easy.
You know, it has been a time of change and uncertainty, but through it all, one thing remains the same.
Our commitment to bringing you the facts with honest, straightforward reporting.
And at CBS, we are part of a proud tradition, reporting the news with integrity.
And we'll continue to ask the tough questions, and we're committed to finding answers.
So as things continue to change, stay connected, stay informed.
Stay with CBS2 News at 5 and 6.
And the CBS Evening News at 6:30.
The CBS News app, streaming CBS News Los Angeles.
And KCAL9.
What does that mean? Hundreds of firefighters.
Oh no! Only on KCAL9.
CBS News Los Angeles and KCAL9. Streaming on the CBS News app and Pluto TV.
38% of the vote, and Kevin De Leon, as we mentioned, still in the race there with 7% of the vote. Well, the job for top cop in LA County is also up for grabs tonight.
That's right. Sheriff Alex Villanueva trying to keep his spot in a crowded field of candidates. 8 challengers trying to unseat LA County Sheriff Alex Villanueva, and it is one of the most important races in California. He is arguably the most controversial law enforcement leader in the country. Tonight, Sheriff Alex Villanueva with 30% of the vote. Chief Robert Luna from the Long Beach Police Department with 28%, and Eric Strong with 13%. KCAL9 senior reporter Ross Palumbo is live in East LA tonight, where the sheriff is watching the votes come in now.
Well, Susie and Juan, I just spoke with the Villanueva campaign, and I can tell you they are confident that they are going to do well tonight. In fact, they tell me that by the time the sheriff, who just walked by there, is actually going down the hallway to the bathroom, we'll try to catch him on the way back. By the time the sheriff hits the stage here and stands under these balloons and this sign, by the time the sheriff gets to the stage and starts talking tonight, they're completely confident that he not only will be the top 2 candidates, but he'll have over 50% and will be beginning to talk about his second term. In fact, let's take a look at the video when the sheriff first walked in to City's restaurant here tonight. You can see the crowd erupting into cheers. That's because this is where the sheriff was in 2018, where he came out of nowhere to get the second highest return when he was going up against the incumbent, Jim McDonald. Tonight, they believe the same thing is going to happen. The magic is going to repeat itself. This morning, we caught up with the sheriff as he was casting his ballot and asked him, Does he not only think he's going to get in the top 2, or does he think he's going to win the whole thing and get over 50%? Take a listen.
Well, it's going to be up to the people. I'm cautiously optimistic that we can end it today, yes. It's a whole new day. This is 2022. The whole defunding of law enforcement and cops are bad and let's get rid of them is not going to sell in 22. I think people want to be safe primarily, and that includes everybody.
Okay, you're looking live inside the city's restaurant where the sheriff just walked by us a few moments ago. We expect him to be coming back down the hallway, and we'll try to catch him, Juan and Susie, when he comes back. What we want to talk to him about is how this campaign in 2022 really differed from 2018 when the sheriff first came in. He was actually asked about that, and he says that really the only thing that has changed from his perspective, not him, but the Democratic Party, he believes, went far, far more left. We'll see what voters have to say about that. We'll be here all night long, and as soon as the sheriff comes out, we'll try to talk to him. For now, though, it's the very latest live in East LA. Back to you.
All right, Ross, thank you so much. Determining California's political landscape.
Our expert panelists join us again as primary votes continue to pour in next. But first, more election results.
You know, it has been a time of change and uncertainty, but through it all, one thing remains the same.
Our commitment to bringing you the facts with honest, straightforward reporting.
And at CBS, we are part of a proud tradition, reporting the news with integrity.
And we'll continue to ask the tough questions, and we're committed to finding answers.
So as things continue to change, stay connected, stay informed.
Stay with CBS2 News at 5 and 6.
And the CBS Evening News at 6:30.
Houston will face off with State Senator Brian Daly in November. With 15% of the vote, he will be in a runoff with the governor in November.
We want to go back now to our panel of political experts now to get their insight on primary night in the Golden State. Joining us tonight, law expert on elections from Loyola Law School, Jessica Levinson, Jennifer Cryer, a political science professor at USC, and longtime county supervisor and city councilman Zev Yaroslavsky. Zev, we'd like to start with you tonight. We're talking about the run for LA City Mayor. Numbers coming in showing Rick Caruso is a top vote getter with 41% of the vote, Karen Bass with 38%. Those were the expected two to come out on top. So what will have to happen between tonight and election night in November to come out victorious?
Well, I think this is not great news for Rick Caruso. I think he expected to be a little more distance between him and Karen Bass. It's essentially a dead heat. And mind you that in November the turnout is going to be higher. It's going to be more working class, and I think it will favor Karen Bass by more than it'll favor. More than she was favored tonight. So I think it's going to be a race. It's going to be close. That's clear. But I think as a result of these returns, I think it's safe to say that she's the favorite going in.
And Zev, we've been talking about low voter turnout throughout the day. Why do you think that is? You were saying that more turnout will happen in November. Why are primaries so important, not getting that same amount of attention from voters?
Well, I think there are two reasons. Number one, as our co-panelist said earlier in the program, in a primary, there tends to be a lower turnout. This is like the prelims, and people like to watch the finals. The finals, in people's minds, are in November, even though in the municipal elections, the city elections, the finals can be tonight. That's one reason. The second reason is I think people are fed up, and and there's a kind of a atmosphere out there of, what difference does it make if I go to vote? They've voted for taxes to address homelessness. They have voted for taxes to increase public safety, and nothing changes. There's a a sense, and in the survey that I do, and I think at UCLA and the surveys that Fernando does at Loyola Marymount, we see the same thing, that people just don't think government is working. It's not an ideological thing. It's not liberal versus conservative, progressive versus conservative. It's about competence versus incompetence. People want to see results, and they're not seeing enough. And so, should I go out and vote? What difference does it make? I think there was an attitude of that sort. It's a very low turnout for a gubernatorial primary.
All right, Zev, thank you. Jessica Levinson, when it comes to the governor's race, that appears tonight to be a done deal. Can anything change between now and November to change things for Gavin Newsom?
No, I think it will be a question of, does he win really big or does he win really, really big? And I know that sounds like a bit of hyperbole, but we just saw this governor beat off a recall. Now, obviously, this is different. He has a different opponent. There's a different electorate. But I actually think, to Zev's point about how the electorate in November is going to be better for Karen Bass, I think the electorate in November will be even better for Gavin Newsom than the recall electorate was. And we saw how he did. It's hard to imagine what type of massive political earthquake would occur to allow him to stumble. It's going to be him versus Dolly. That's exactly what he wants. He doesn't want a strong Democrat, and frankly, there wasn't one. And I think this is going to allow him to run the race that he wants, which is a national race where he can put on their national issues and he can try and segue potentially, although he says, I've never thought about this before, he can potentially segue into a national race.
And as you said, if he beat the recall, I mean, definitely he's beat re-election. Jennifer Cryer, now when it comes to messaging, of course, did one candidate for mayor do a better job at getting their messages across? How is that going right now?
Well, I think plain and simple, one way to get your message out is to be well-resourced and to buy ad space, to finance, get out the vote campaigns, and to really get people on the ground. And so, by and large, Caruso has spent a lot. That money has gone towards those initiatives on his end. And this is kind of the best test case, the best last chance for him to really show how leveraging that many resources can pay off. And so to have this minimal of a distance between him and Karen Bass is quite perhaps alarming for his campaign.
That's right. The race has just begun. All right, Jennifer, Jessica, and Zev, thank you so much for being with us tonight.
All right, Evelyn Taft joins us next with a warm-up in our forecast.
But first, as we head to break, more numbers from today's primary election.
Got your phone handy? Of course you do. Scan this right here. Download the CBS LA app. And just like that, you're connected to all the best local news and videos. Now, if only everything were this easy.
Thank you, and thank you for watching KCAL9 News at 8.
For continuing coverage on tonight's primary election, stay tuned for KCAL9 News at 9. And don't forget, we're also streaming on CBS News Los Angeles.
Get the CBS Los Angeles app on any device. Local news, sports, weather, video on demand, and CBS News Los Angeles, all in just one tap. Download now.
The CBS News app, streaming CBS News Los Angeles.
And KCAL9.
What does that mean?
Hundreds of firefighters.
Oh no! Only on KCAL9.
CBS News Los Angeles and KCAL9. Streaming on the CBS News app and Pluto TV.
You know, it has been a time of change and uncertainty, but through it all, one thing remains the same.
Our commitment to bringing you the facts with honest, straightforward reporting.
And at CBS, we are part of a proud tradition, reporting the news with integrity.
And we'll continue to ask the tough questions, and we're committed to finding answers.
So as things continue to change, stay connected, stay informed.
Stay with CBS2 News at 5 and 6.
And the CBS Evening News at 6:30.
Got your phone handy? Of course you do. Scan this right here. Download the CBS LA app. And just like that, you're connected to all the best local news and videos. Now, if only everything were this easy.
Now at 9, California primary results are coming in for top races from LA Mayor to LA County Sheriff, Governor, and Congress. And we begin tonight with a race that's being watched across the country. Who will become the next mayor of Los Angeles? Rick Caruso, who spent a record $40 million of his own money. And right now, he has 41% of the vote compared to Congresswoman Karen Bass. LA City Council member Kevin De Leon is coming in third with 7%. If someone gets more than 50% of the vote tonight, he or she will win. If not, the top two vote getters will face each other in November. And we have live team coverage of the LA mayor's race, beginning with KCAL9 political reporter Tom Waite. He's live at the Grove, where Rick Caruso is watching the returns come in. Very familiar place to him, right, Tom?
Yeah, I definitely got a good assignment tonight, Pat. The Grove is definitely lit up. It's a party here tonight. Of course, this being one of Caruso's most iconic properties. You can see the crowd filling in behind me. It's kind of like a dance club, nightclub thing going on right now. People are filling in. You can see the podium. That's where he's supposed to speak at any point. They've made a couple of announcements so far, but we haven't seen him out here yet. But let's take a look at some video from earlier today in Boyle Heights, where Caruso was out casting his ballot. It's been a long, hard campaign for him, as it of course has for all the candidates. And Bass, the Congress.
All right, we're having a little bit of problem there with Tom's audio, so we're going to go now to our Leslie Marin. She is standing by with the Karen Bass campaign headquarters, and I imagine their election night party would be somewhere in Hollywood. Is that right? Or are they somewhere else, Leslie?
Yeah, Pat, we are in the heart of Hollywood, and much like Tom, it was loud over there. It is a party here tonight. Of course, as Bass's campaign is anxiously awaiting the results, seeing if she did enough to garner the support of LA voters, and if she made the right decision to leave Congress after 12 years in office. Now to run to become LA's mayor. I want to get out of the way just to show you a little bit of the setup behind me. You can see the stage behind me set. We are expecting Karen Bass to possibly speak sometime around 10 p.m. tonight. It could be later. Just have to monitor how these results come in. But to the right of me here, you can see lots of people in attendance. Many of these supporters out here tonight telling me they believe Bass is the right woman for the job. I do want to get to some video that just shows you more of the atmosphere out here. People we spoke to so far say they believe Bass can solve some of the city's biggest crises, including homelessness. Over the weekend, Bass said she was cautiously optimistic about her marginal lead against billionaire developer Rick Caruso. But for many, Bass has become a well-known name. Having served 12 years in Congress, the top reason she says she decided to run was because of LA City's homeless crisis. One person we spoke to, Councilman Marquise Harris Dawson. Take a listen to what he said and why he supports Karen Bass.
Well, I think Bass's approach is critical. First of all, she understands that it's not just one thing. It's part mental health, it's part the economy and the cost of housing, and then it's just part displacement. And all of those things require specific solutions. And you can't paint with one brush. You have to get in there like a surgeon with a scalpel and figure out which veins go where and which arteries go where. And that was really where Karen Bass has superior skill.
You know, she talked a lot about wanting to make sure that the county and the city began to work together. Because she felt like maybe the county and the city weren't meshing. How do you feel when it comes to that?
Well, I totally agree with her that that's needed. I'm on the city council, and it's very frustrating, the lack of communication and the lack of coordination between the county and the city, much less the state and federal government. I was happy just last week, Thursday, we were here with Congressmember Bass, the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, the President of the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors, mental health providers, housing providers, all in one room, coming up with solutions that we can start to implement even before she's elected.
Well, when you talk about Karen Bass, you have to talk about what it would mean if she did become LA's next mayor, because it would be historic. Not only would she be the second ever black mayor for the city, but she would be the first woman to become mayor if voters decide that. Back out here live, Leslie Marin, I'll toss it back to you in the studio for now. Again, we're awaiting Karen Bass to possibly take the stage in about an hour.
All right, thank you, Leslie. We'll be standing by for that. But also in the race to run LA City Councilman Kevin De Leon. He cast his ballot this morning at a senior citizen center, and tonight he's at an election night party at Nativo Restaurant in Highland Park. But the polls put him pretty far behind Karen Bass and Rick Caruso. Now, another big race that we're following tonight, the top cop in LA County, Sheriff Alex Villanueva, is in a tight race at the moment. We're going to show you the numbers. There they are. He has 31% of the vote right now compared to his next challenger. That's Robert Luna with 27% of the vote. And Eric Strong is coming in third at 13%. That's with 32% of the precincts reporting. So if someone in the race for sheriff does not get more than 50% of the vote tonight, he or she will face off in November with the top two people. Very interesting race there. But KCAL9 senior reporter Ross Palumbo is live in East LA tonight with more for us. Are you at Sheriff's headquarters, Ross? And what's going on there? What are they talking about?
Well, listen, Pat, I can tell you that those numbers are no surprise to anyone here. I can barely hear you because they are partying so hard out here. The music is loud. Everyone is drinking. They have always been confident that the sheriff was going to be the top number here tonight. Maybe a little concerned that Robert Luna is just a few points behind, but what they're primarily concerned about tonight is whether the sheriff is just going to make it to the 50%. That's all they're worried about. They're not worried that he's going to be number one, at least not so far. Now, we just saw the sheriff walk by us a few minutes ago. He still seems incredibly confident. He came downstairs here, shook some hands with his supporters, but he went right back upstairs where he is closely watching those numbers. I also spoke with a committee member of his just a few minutes ago, and he is confident, as everyone is here, that the sheriff is going to not only come out on top, but get above 50%.
I'm a very positive thinking person, and he's a very hard worker, Sheriff. I believe he's going to make it.
You think he's going to clean up tonight, though, get over 50?
Yes, definitely will make it. He has done tremendous job. You know, when the people do the good things, you get a lot of opposition. So we don't care. He is doing the right thing. You do the right thing for everybody.
Okay, this is the upstairs of City's restaurant where the sheriff is up right now watching those numbers come back in. And Pat, he's going to be coming down here to this stage and speaking as soon as it's pretty clear where we are tonight. His supporters fully believe that when the sheriff takes this stage tonight, he is going to be talking about his certain second term. Of course, we'll keep you updated. For now, though, that's the very latest live in East LA, Pat. Back to you.
All right, thanks so much for that, Ross, and we'll be getting back to you. You know, we were talking about mayoral candidate Kevin De Leon, currently in third place. He is speaking now at his campaign headquarters in Highland Park.
Better policies that improve the human condition for all individuals. To my family, to my friends that are here today, I want to say this, but especially these young women and men here today, these folks have been amazing. These are all our college interns here today. Let's get it for all college interns here. Let me tell you something right now. They made thousands of phone calls, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, Texas as well. You guys are amazing. I'm so proud of you. Not everyone is a college intern. We got some high school interns here as well too, and they've been consistent. So I want to thank you because you guys make me so proud. For many of them, it was the first time they ever participated in a political election. And what an opportunity to actually participate in the mayoral race for the second largest city in America. Let's give it to all of my college interns and high school interns here today. I'm so proud of each and every one of you. Now, let me say this. I ran for mayor because I love this city. But I ran for mayor also too because I think collectively we're all tired of seeing people, hard-working people, people who are the salt of the earth, People who work their fingers to the bone every single day to make this city go. People who are being left behind. People who are on the cusp of not knowing if they'll have a roof over their head because not knowing if they'll be a victim of an eviction. Folks who lost their family members or loved ones or co-workers when many of their neighborhoods at the height of the pandemic was actually ground zero for both infections as well as mortality rates. These are our janitors, these are our security officers, these are our hotel workers, these are our housekeepers, these are our laborers, these are our teamsters, these are the women and men who make this city go. These are the women and men who built this city. These are the women and men who oftentimes are the forgotten, the invisible, people relegated to the back of the line for life-saving vaccinations as well as PPE equipment. The women and men who are the essential workers of LA, yet treated like expendable workers. These are the people who we fought for. These are the people, the reason that we ran for office. These are the folks who we fight for every single day in the trenches to make sure that we can take folks off the street and put a roof over their head, provide them dignity and respect, to make sure for those who are barely holding on by their fingertips, barely holding on, to keep a roof over their head, to make sure that they still have a roof over their head and can have enough money in their pockets to put food on the table as well as clothes on the back of their children. These are the women and men that we fight for every single day. And it doesn't make a difference who you are or where you come from. The color of your skin, which God you pray to, who you love, or your legal status. Because these are the backbone of the city of LA, and they deserve dignity and respect. Am I right? Yeah. These are the people who we fight for every single day. These are the people that Jimmy fights for as well as Miguel every single day in Washington as well as Sacramento. And guess what? These were the people who we all fought for collectively. Because it's not just Kevin De Leon. All of these young interns, high school and college, all of you who supported me amazingly by your contributions, by your support, by your love, by the spirit that
Kevin
you give me,
De Leon,
positive
who at
energy.
last count
It
with
was
about
our
a third of the
battle
precincts
collectively
reporting
together.
had 7% of the vote. We did not hear him concede there, so we will stay tuned throughout the evening to see if he will tonight or not, depending, of course, on how the numbers are going. But right now, with a third of the precincts reporting, he has 7% of the vote. But we're going to turn now to the race for an open seat on the LA County Board of Supervisors. And in that campaign, West Hollywood Council member Lindsay Horvath comes in with 26% of the vote. Veteran State Assemblyman and Senator Bob Hertzberg is leading with 36% right now. Senator Henry Stern rounds out the third tier with 23% of the vote. And this is, of course, taking place because Sheila Kuehl, two-term LA County Supervisor of the 3rd District, has retired. And if someone gets more than 50% of the vote tonight, he or she will win this contest. If not, the top two will face each other in November. And we continue our live team coverage with KCAL9's Lori Perez. She's in West Hollywood, where one of the leading candidates is hosting an election night event. And of course, that would be Lindsay Horvath. Hi, Lori.
Hi there, and when you just put up those numbers, we could hear a crowd cheering behind us. They are very pleased with the numbers so far, trying to say so far that there's a long way to go tonight. They are feeling very optimistic, as is Ms. Horvath. You know, I think most people realized during the pandemic just how impactful these county supervisor seats are. You know, we've looked to county leaders as they were helping to decide how to respond to the pandemic, when and where we should go to work and to school, when and where we should wear masks. The county supervisor seats are some of the most powerful elected positions throughout the nation. With 2 million residents and a budget larger than the budgets of 25 states, the Board of Supervisors' 3rd District is huge, stretching from Malibu and Santa Monica all the way to Chatsworth and Porter Ranch. And within those borders, big issues: a homeless emergency, a housing crisis, and rising crime. A county supervisor seat is not for the faint of heart. They help shape public health, mental health,
criminal justice, criminal reform, schools, development. It is one of the most powerful elected positions in the nation. The three leading candidates who say they have the right stuff for the 3rd District are State Senator Bob Hertzberg, West Hollywood Councilwoman Lindsay Horvath, and State Senator Henry Stern. Stern has been in the state Senate for 6 years, Hertzberg more than 10 in Sacramento as Senate Majority Leader and 2 years as Assembly Speaker. Horvath has 9 years on the West Hollywood City Council, 2 as mayor.
It is that firsthand experience that I have uniquely as a local elected official in this race, and it is that experience that informs how I will be serving in this seat.
The best politicians are people who think about not just solving the problem today, but solving problems people don't know they have, because that's your job, so it doesn't become a problem again.
It's the most service-oriented version of government that's out there, so this would be the greatest job I could ever imagine in my career.
Now, in the next hour, we're going to try and grab Lindsay Horvath to talk to her live as she and her team continue to watch the results come in, again, feeling very optimistic and saying we have a long way to go tonight. We are live in West Hollywood. I'm Lori Perez. Back to you.
All right, thanks, Lori. Now, for a closer look at tonight's primary races and how things are shaping up, we're joined now by our political analysts. Very happy to have them back with us tonight. Political science professor Fernando Guerra with Loyola Marymount University, law expert on elections, Loyola Law School, Professor Jessica Levinson, and Jennifer Cryer, a political science professor at USC. Thanks, all of you, for joining us tonight. Real quick, just want to get a really quick answer before we get to some of the specific races. You know, voter turnout, we knew it was probably going to be lower because it's a primary, but at the same time, everyone did receive a mail-in ballot, and there are a lot of issues that people said they cared about. So why were there more votes tonight, or why did more people cast a ballot? And we can start with you, Fernando.
Oh, sure. So this is, this is going to be a much higher turnout than the last time we had a mayoral election. Last time it was 23%. This is going to be higher than that. This is going to be much higher than when the last time the governor was up for re-election in 2014. Governor Brown was running for re-election, if you recall. It was only 25% statewide, only 17% in LA County. This is going to be much higher than that. So we're not going to break records, but we're nowhere near the bottom lows that recently happened. So the turnout's okay, could be better.
Okay, Jessica Levinson, let's move on and talk about Karen Bass and Rick Caruso. Not really surprising. We had them running neck and neck or close to the first and second positions well before tonight happened. Are you surprised at the numbers at where they are now? Or it appears that Rick Caruso is slightly ahead by 3 percentage points of Karen Bass. Does that surprise you?
It doesn't, given the disparity in spending and given how I think she's a very good candidate. She has a lot of name recognition. And let's remember, when it comes to Rick Caruso, this is not to take anything away from his message, but if he had this message and he was a semi-successful CPA, we would never hear from him. We're hearing from him because he was able to spend $40 million. So does it surprise me? No, in the sense that we know when it comes to self-funded candidates that you need not just the money, but you need the message. And I think for a lot of people, he did have a very compelling message that we're worried about public safety, that we need a change, that we can't continue the course. But if you look at how much he spent compared to Karen Bass's, I think 3.5 million, 3.8 million. And if you look at this electorate, and if you look at the electorate we're going to have in November, to echo something that Zev Yaroslavsky said more recently tonight, I think that she is the presumptive favorite. That's a much better electorate for her. He knew that. He absolutely wanted to win tonight to get more than 50%. I don't see that. He's going to pour a lot more money in, but again, he can't buy a different electorate, and it's going to be a more diverse, a younger, and I think better electorate for her come November.
Okay, well, let me ask you this question, Jennifer Cryer. What would you do if you were running Caruso's campaign right now in terms of trying to move further ahead and get more people in his camp by November?
Yeah, strategy says it's not just enough to get your message out there. That message also needs to be sufficiently different from your competitor, and it also needs to reach a broad audience. And so I think right now, rather than throwing money and resources at the problem, things need to get more strategic. The Caruso campaign needs to think about who they want to target, what sort of endorsements those populations want to see, and what policy positions they really want them to take that are specific and different from everyone else.
All right, Fernando Guerrero, let's go to the sheriff's race real quickly. Let's talk about strategy then. What does Sheriff Alex Villanueva need to do to fend off Richard Luna, the Long Beach police chief, which looks like those will be the two competitors come November?
Yes, Villanueva has completely underperformed. We heard him in a much earlier piece talk about that he was going over 50% and he was confident. He's way underperforming. I think Luna, just like Jessica mentioned, Bass is the front runner. I think Luna will be the front runner. I think Luna, by the way, will easily win in November now, given these results. It's clear that the voters, 2/3 of them are saying they're not voting for Villanueva right now in the primary. The November electorate is going to be even more difficult for him. I think Luna will be our new sheriff. I know it's 6 months away, but given this pattern, it's going to be hard to change that.
And what would you say is the driving factor for that, Jessica Levinson? Okay, I wanted to get a last question about the sheriff's race, but unfortunately we are out of time right now. But we know you will be back throughout the evening to give us your expert analysis. So I want to thank you again, Fernando Guerra, Jessica Levinson, of course, and Jennifer Cryer. Thanks so much, and see you a bit later. Now, fire danger in the forecast. KCAL9 meteorologist Evelyn Taft is up next.
Get the CBS Los Angeles app on any device. Local news, sports, weather, video on demand, and CBS News Los Angeles, all in just one tap. Download now.
You know, it has been a time of change and uncertainty, but through it all, one thing remains the same.
Our commitment to bringing you the facts with honest, straightforward reporting.
And at CBS, we are part of a proud tradition, reporting the news with integrity.
And we'll continue to ask the tough questions, and we're committed to finding answers.
So as things continue to change, stay connected, stay informed.
Stay with CBS2 News at 5 and 6.
And the CBS Evening News at 6:30.
The CBS News app, streaming CBS News Los Angeles.
And KCAL9.
What does that mean? Hundreds of firefighters.
Oh no! Only on KCAL9.
CBS News Los Angeles and KCAL9. Streaming on the CBS News app and Pluto TV.
Got your phone handy? Of course you do. Scan this right here. Download the CBS LA app. And just like that, you're connected to all the best local news and videos. Now, if only everything were this easy. Get the CBS Los Angeles app on any device. Local news, sports, weather, video on demand, and CBS News Los Angeles, all in just one tap. Download now.
Welcome back. We are getting a look outside right now at Long Beach, where there's a little bit of cloud cover in the mix, but that marine layer is going to get smaller and smaller over the coming days as temperatures start to warm and high pressure builds in. You will see numbers mostly in the 60s and 70s. That is right now. I'm going to step off and show you all the numbers, and we're technically warmer tonight compared to this time last night. In fact, take a look right here. You'll see we are warmer for Burbank, a little cooler for Fullerton, warmer for Riverside, San Bernardino, 4 degrees warmer for Palm Springs compared to this time last night. Windy conditions from Lancaster to Palm Springs and Hemet. We're still looking at offshore wind, elevated fire danger at least through tomorrow, and we're going to continue to see high pressure build into Southern California. Temperatures warming, in fact, peaking by the end of the week with 80s in the basin. As we check in with the valleys, we'll see 90s, and as we check in with the Inland Empire, triple digits Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. More primary election coverage when we come back.
Get the CBS Los Angeles app on any device. Local news, sports, weather, video on demand, and CBS News Los Angeles, all in just one tap. Download now.
You know, it has been a time of change and uncertainty, but through it all, one thing remains the same.
Our commitment to bringing you the facts with honest, straightforward reporting.
And at CBS, we are part of a proud tradition, reporting the news with integrity.
And we'll continue to ask the tough questions, and we're committed to finding answers.
So as things continue to change, stay connected, stay informed.
Stay with CBS2 News at 5 and 6.
And the CBS Evening News at 6:30.
The CBS News app, streaming CBS News Los Angeles.
And KCAL9.
What does that mean?
Hundreds of firefighters.
Oh no! Only on KCAL9.
CBS News Los Angeles and KCAL9. Streaming on the CBS News app and Pluto TV.
Back to our primary coverage tonight in the race for LA County Sheriff. Sheriff Alex Villanueva is in a tight race at the moment. Let's look at some of the numbers. With, again, about a third of the precincts reporting, he is coming in with 31% of the vote. And Robert Luna, the Long Beach police chief, is coming in with 27% of the vote. And remember, if someone gets more than 50% tonight, they will go on to win the race. But if not, the top two vote getters will face off in November, and it looks like it will be Robert Luna, if the numbers hold up like they are right now. We continue our election team coverage with the race for LA County Sheriff, and Rick Montanez is live in Long Beach with one of the candidates trying to take over the job. Rick.
Yeah, retired police chief Robert Luna having an intimate gathering here at his home, his supporters here in his backyard to celebrate these numbers that are coming in. Of course, numbers that are showing promising signs for the former police chief. I just talked with him a few minutes ago about how the night is going for him. Take a listen. How are we feeling? We see the returns, these early returns, but numbers are looking favorable for you.
They are looking favorable, and at first I'm cautiously optimistic, and let's hope that the numbers keep on going that direction.
And of course, Luna looking to bring in some new ideas, things that he did while he was the police chief for the city of Long Beach. He has a career in law enforcement for the last 3.5 decades, and crediting, in fact, some LA County Sheriff's deputies for encouraging him to go into that field from when he grew up in East LA. So these people, of course, here are excited for these numbers coming in, and we'll keep an eye on things. But for now, we'll go back to you.
Rick Montanez reporting live from Long Beach. Thank you very much. Now, more results from the primary election coming up, including statewide races and the battle for control of Congress.
You know, it has been a time of change and uncertainty, but through it all, one thing remains the same.
Our commitment to bringing you the facts with honest, straightforward reporting.
And at CBS, we are part of a proud tradition, reporting the news with integrity.
And we'll continue to ask the tough questions, and we're committed to finding answers.
So as things continue to change, stay connected, stay informed.
Stay with CBS2 News at 5 and 6.
And the CBS Evening News at 6:30.
Get the CBS Los Angeles app on any device. Local news, sports, weather, video on demand, and CBS News Los Angeles, all in just one tap. Download now.
The CBS News app, streaming CBS News Los Angeles.
And KCAL9.
What does that mean?
Hundreds of firefighters.
Oh no! Only on KCAL9.
CBS News Los Angeles and KCAL9. Streaming on the CBS News app and Pluto TV.
Got your phone handy? Of course you do. Scan this right here. Download the CBS LA app. And just like that, you're connected to all the best local news and videos. Now, if only everything were this easy.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Juan Fernandez. We continue our coverage of the primary election. Results are coming in for the LA mayor's race. Rick Caruso, who spent a record $40 million of his own money, has 41% of the vote right now. That's 99,000 plus votes. Meantime, Congresswoman Karen Bass has 38% of the vote, so just over 91,000. And LA City Council member Kevin De Leon has 7% of the vote. If someone gets more than 50% of that vote tonight, he or she wins. If not, the top two will face each other off in November. Although it's very close right now, it looks like that will be Caruso and Bass. Now to the LA County Sheriff's race. Current Sheriff Alex Villanueva has 31% of the vote, with 182,000 votes coming in so far for him. But it's a tight race. We just heard from Rick Montanez where he was at the Robert Luna campaign. He has 27% of the vote, more than 157,000 votes coming in for him. LAX Police Chief Cecil Rambo has, he is not there on the list there, but Eric Strong has 13% there of the vote, with just about 70,000 votes for him. So right now, as things sit, it looks like the race will be between Alex Villanueva and Robert Luna come November. Those two right now, the top two vote getters tonight. Tonight, we're also tracking several key California contests, many of them with implications nationally. We're joined by CBS Director of Elections and Surveys, Anthony Salvanto. He joins us live now from New York. Anthony, thanks again for being with us tonight.
How are you? How are you?
Doing real good. Let's hear from you. What's going on?
Okay, so let me start with the top. Maybe this isn't the biggest surprise of the night. In fact, it's not. But so Newsom will go through to the runoff. Let's just get that out of the way. You know, in the Senate race, Padilla go through the runoff against Musser. So we've got those on the statewide level. Now, the other things I want to go through, though, are some of the key congressional districts, because you talked about them tonight. We've been looking at them. I don't know if the road to a majority for the Republicans goes through California, but it's certainly going to help if they can flip a couple more seats in California. And certainly if they do take back the House, the size of their majority will be determined out there. So, you know, let's take a look at the 45th. Michelle Steele and Jay Channel advance to the runoff. That's going to be a district that we're going to watch in through November, certainly. That's going to be a competitive race, I think. You know, I'm going to look at the California 41st. This one, votes are coming in. We've got a pretty tight race here. I'm going to show you the California 27th, where Garcia and Smith will advance to a runoff. So that's where they're headed into November. All these races, the CDs all around the Southland, you know, we're going to watch those because after redistricting, there aren't that many competitive races. There probably won't be as many in California as there were in, say, 2018, but the ones that are competitive, those are going to be really determinative.
Anthony, I have a question for you. When it comes to a voter turnout, we saw it tonight, not a lot of people coming out to vote. The primary is still very important. Why is that the case? Have you seen this in prior elections? I mean, we've seen low primaries, but even here in California, where everybody's getting the vote can vote from home. Even with that, we're not seeing a lot of voter turnout.
Well, you're right about that. I mean, you know, maybe the expected vote out of LA is what, 700,000 now out of the millions who could have voted. I think overall it's competitiveness. The first thing that happens is if there's a really competitive race, then people feel like their vote could be decisive or help be decisive, so they vote. But if there isn't, then they're less inclined. And that's one of the things that happens, you know, especially in the large statewide races. You know, we kind of know California is a heavily Democratic state. So for somebody like a governor's race, for a Newsom, even for a Padilla, maybe not as much incentive for people to turn out there. And then the other part of it is, you know, as we get to these CDs, it comes back to what I said before. There are some that are going to be really competitive and we're all going to watch them, but there are a lot that aren't. After redistricting, it's a little less so in California, but it's certainly the case throughout the country. You know, they've been carved up so that they're either heavily Democratic or heavily Republican. Again, you don't necessarily have an incentive to affect the outcome there. And I think that that depresses turnout a little bit, guys.
Indeed. It's going to be interesting, though, to see what happens between now and November. All right, Anthony Salvanto, thanks for joining us once again tonight with your insight. All right, our primary election coverage continues right after this break. Stay with us.
Get the CBS Los Angeles app on any device. Local news, sports, weather, video on demand, and CBS News Los Angeles, all in just one tap. Download now. Got your phone handy? Of course you do. Scan this right here. Download the CBS LA app. And just like that, you're connected to all the best local news and videos. Now, if only everything were this easy.
We have been talking a lot about the primaries tonight, but it is also important to talk about the weather because that heat, Evelyn, you could definitely feel it today.
Oh, so much so that we got into the 80s, 90s, and very soon, Juan, we could see triple-digit temperatures. So let's get a look at Long Beach this evening. You'll see a little bit of cloud cover out there right now. And as we get a look at the rest of our forecast, well, a warming trend does continue. That marine layer will shrink and heat will peak as we head into Friday. Let's get a look at temperatures right now, and we're quite mild. We're in the 60s and 70s. As we check in with our 24-hour temperature changes, you'll see we're generally warmer tonight compared to this time last night, with a couple exceptions there. Downtown and Fullerton slightly cooler. Wind speeds right now at 24 miles per hour for Lancaster and 13 miles per hour as we head to Palm Springs. So high pressure will continue to build into Southern California, bringing with it some seriously warm numbers. We're talking elevated fire danger and single-digit relative humidity through tomorrow. With that, we're also looking at warmer temperatures and even warmer by the end of the week. Humidity will recover a little bit and winds will get calmer, but temperatures will only get warmer for most of us. You'll see 70s turning to 80s for the Basin in Orange County. As we check in with the valleys, we're in the 90s, mid-90s, in fact, as we hit Thursday. And checking in with the IE, 90s turning to triple digits Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Slightly cooler Sunday and more cooling Monday and Tuesday. And finally checking in with the Basin, the valleys, the IE again, just kind of putting it all on one page for you just to show you how much warmer we are going to get. Yep, triple digits in store for the high desert as well. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday before we cool it down a touch Sunday. More cooling en route Monday. And then by Tuesday of next week, actually warming it up a few degrees with 70s, 80s, and 90s. We could be tracking record-breaking numbers by the end of the week, so of course we'll stay on top of that for you. But for now, Juan, back to you.
I know you will. Evelyn, thanks. Coming up next here at 9, a new warning about copycat attacks in the wake of recent mass shootings. Plus, deep discounts, major retailers overflowing with inventory from the pandemic. And you know what that means. Everything must go. And more results from the primary election still ahead and still coming in.
You know, it has been a time of change and uncertainty, but through it all, one thing remains the same.
Our commitment to bringing you the facts with honest, straightforward reporting.
And at CBS, we are part of a proud tradition, reporting the news with integrity.
And we'll continue to ask the tough questions, and we're committed to finding answers.
So as things continue to change, stay connected, stay informed.
Stay with CBS2 News at 5 and 6.
And the CBS Evening News at 6:30.
The CBS News app, streaming CBS News Los Angeles.
And KCAL9.
What does that mean?
Hundreds of firefighters.
Oh no! Only on KCAL9.
CBS News Los Angeles and KCAL9. Streaming on the CBS News app and Pluto TV.
We continue our live team coverage of the California primary. All night long, we're updating you on the latest results as you see right here. And remember, you can stream us live on CBS News Los Angeles. All right, let's get back to our panel of experts for more local analysis of the top races. Back with us again is Jennifer Cryer, a political science professor at USC and longtime county supervisor and city councilman Zev Yaroslavsky. Thank you both for being with us tonight. Zev, I'm going to start with you. Leading up to tonight, you know, we heard so much frustration from people regarding lack of affordable housing. the homeless crisis, gas prices, crime, and so forth. Yet turnout has been low, even lower than past lows. Is this just par for the primary course? And what changes heading into November has to happen with some of these top races that we're watching tonight?
Well, I think there are two factors in the low turnout. First of all, as I said in an earlier segment, I think the primaries tend to have lower turnouts than the general elections. It's like watching the early playoffs in the NBA championships and then watching the finals. And the second reason is that I think people are frustrated, and they're frustrated with what they believe is an incompetence, a lack of being able to solve problems at the local level. I mean, we've seen that in the survey I do. Fernando Guerra does that at Loyola Marymount. There's a high level of anxiety, of frustration, of it's not ideological. It's with the level of competence or incompetence in dealing with the major challenges of our day: homelessness, housing prices, public safety. Just the overall quality of life. And I think people are asking themselves, why bother? I think it's a terrible question to ask, because when people stay home, they have no one to blame but themselves for not making the change they want. But that's what I think is going on here. It's both a primary, which is normally a lower turnout. It'll be a higher turnout in November for sure. And it's also just a frustration.
Jennifer, when it comes to messaging, what have you found resonates the most with voters? And moving on, what should candidates be focusing on as we head into November?
For the mayoral race, I think all of the candidates converged on all of the issues that polling said Californians care about the most. What they might want to consider going into the general is making that message something that's a little bit more specific and adding information on the skills that they bring to the table to solve that problem and the plans that they have specifically. And I think here right now in the primaries, you don't really see that engagement there. With regard to the sheriff races, you see something very similar. The challengers are all kind of converging on the same issues, and Villanueva is focusing primarily on kind of policing writ large, kind of its importance, and people care about safety. And I think really getting down to the nitty-gritty and getting down to the detail is what people need to do as we move forward.
And Zev, going back to you, moving forward, as she was saying, how hard do Caruso and Bass have to work to get votes out there? Earlier you said in November we're going to see a much larger turnout of voters, but what needs to change?
Well, I think that I think Caruso and the people who have been spending millions of dollars in their independent expenditure campaigns on his behalf need to reassess the really brutally racially charged attacks on her. I think that backfired. I don't think Angelenos like that. And negativity didn't work. It didn't work in a number of races in the county and in the city this time around. So I think Caruso has a good message if he stays positive. Bass has a good message if she stays positive. People are going to have a choice of two people with different life experiences and different worldviews. I think the people of Los Angeles deserve a positive exchange of ideas and let the chips fall where they may. I think she's got a slight edge going into the general election because the larger turnout will be larger more among working people than it was in the primary. So she'll get a little bump on that, but it's far from a sure thing. I mean, either one of them could win the general.
So messaging is important, and stay positive above all else. All right, Jennifer and Zev, thank you so much for being with us once again tonight for your expertise. Thanks so much. All right, we'll have much more primary coverage coming up, but first, a new warning tonight from the Department of Homeland Security about the threat of more violence. It says that online forums are encouraging copycat attacks in the wake of the Buffalo and Uvalde, Texas mass shootings, including at schools. Tonight, the pressure to do something on gun reform came to Washington in moving testimony and star power. Actor and Uvalde native Matthew McConaughey appeared at the White House talking about the victims and common sense gun laws. CBS News correspondent Nancy Cordes is at the White House.
We have a life preservation problem on our hands.
Uvalde's most famous former resident took the podium this afternoon to convey the anguish his hometown had shared with him.
We start by making the loss of these lives matter.
His wife, Camilla, carried with her the shoes that belonged to one of the 10-year-old victims, Maite Rodriguez, who had emblazoned them with a hand-drawn heart to symbolize her love of nature.
These are the same green Converse on her feet that turned out to be the only clear evidence that could identify her after the shooting. How about that?
The parents of another victim, 10-year-old Alethea Ramirez, gave him some of her artwork.
Now, this particular drawing is a self-portrait, all right, of Alethea drawing with her friend in heaven looking down on her, drawing the very same picture.
McConaughey grew up in Uvalde and learned to shoot in Uvalde. He has considered running for office in Texas and describes himself not as Republican or Democrat, but as aggressively centrist.
Find a middle ground, the place where most of us Americans live anyway.
He came to Washington this week to push for measures that polls show most Americans support, like expanding background checks and raising the minimum purchasing age for semi-automatic weapons from 18 to 21.
Responsible gun owners are fed up with the Second Amendment being abused and hijacked by some deranged individuals. These regulations are not a step back. They're a step forward for a civil society and the Second Amendment.
That argument has not swayed most Republican leaders. In fact, they just announced their opposition to a red flag bill in the House that would allow guns to be taken away from people who pose a risk to themselves or to others. Those Republican leaders say such a bill would trample on Americans' Second Amendment rights. Nancy Cordes, CBS News, the White House.
In business news, Target cut its quarterly profit forecast today, saying it would have to offer deeper discounts to keep customers coming. The surprise change caused Target shares to drop nearly 7%. Soaring inflation is forcing many customers to change their shopping habits, which is catching retailers off guard. Target says it will mark down prices, cancel some orders with suppliers, and prioritize items like food and household essentials. Shoppers are pulling out of their credit cards more these days. Consumer credit soared by $38 million in April. The total revolving credit for American consumers stand at more than $1 trillion. Experts say credit card spending can be a sign of an increased consumer confidence, but it can also be a sign people want things they can't afford. On Wall Street today, stocks closed higher. The Dow gained 264 points. The Nasdaq picked up nearly 114, and the S&P 500 closed up 39 points. Well, Americans could soon have a new option when it comes to COVID-19 vaccines. That's coming up next. And our election coverage continues right after the break.
Get the CBS Los Angeles app on any device. Local news, sports, weather, video on demand, and CBS News Los Angeles, all in just one tap. Download now.
The CBS News app, streaming CBS News Los Angeles.
And KCAL9.
What does that mean? Hundreds of firefighters.
Oh no! Only on KCAL9.
CBS News Los Angeles and KCAL9. Streaming on the CBS News app and Pluto TV.
Got your phone handy? Of course you do. Scan this right here. Download the CBS LA app. And just like that, you're connected to all the best local news and videos. Now, if only everything were this easy.
A new and very different COVID-19 vaccine may soon be hitting the market. The Food and Drug Administration is examining a shot created by the drug maker Novavax. An FDA panel has recommended emergency authorization use for it. It's a protein vaccine similar to traditional ones that treat hepatitis B and shingles, whereas vaccines by Pfizer and Moderna teach the body to make the protein. A recent poll found 73% of Americans would like to see additional COVID-19 vaccines developed from a more traditional method. All right, we want to go now to Sheriff Alex Villanueva speaking at the podium. Let's go ahead and listen in.
Thank you, everyone who is here tonight. This is an important historical day, and it started off with a bang. The DA of San Francisco just conceded he has been recalled. George Gascon, you're next. The numbers are early. It's kind of hard to figure out where it's going, but I do know that we're sitting on top. We anticipate remaining on top. But I do know this. You don't get to be sheriff of LA County in supporting a failed district attorney like George Gascon. Did I just describe 8 other candidates for sheriff? So let's see what happens. I think we're on the right track, but it's important to recognize, as Mike said, what we've done to get here. One, first and foremost, I got to thank my lovely wife Vivian right here. Yesterday we celebrated yesterday was our silver anniversary. Without her support, the support of her family, I would not be here today. It'd be a different chapter in our history. But we're on the right track. We're focusing on what matters to people, homelessness and violent crime. I've been playing 8-on-1 basketball since the campaign started, literally 8-on-1. And if you throw in all the other opportunities, it's been a lot more than that on one. And yet we're still on top. Why is that? People understand. They understand the difference between political establishment people that really, really want to work for the Board of Supervisors and the people who care about independently elected sheriff. So we're going to keep pushing forward, and we can end this all tonight. We'll find out soon enough. And you know what? Even if it goes a long way, I'm built for endurance. And when I was an unknown with the support of everyone here, the support of the community, we did the unthinkable. We defeated an incumbent who was the favorite son of the political establishment. All the right pedigree, it didn't work out for him. It won't work out for anybody else either. We're going to keep doing what we're doing because it's the right thing to do. Yes. We're here in office because my job, is to keep the community safe. And if that means I have to battle the Board of Supervisors, so be it.
All right, that was Sheriff Alex Villanueva speaking tonight. And let's go now to candidate for LA Mayor Karen Bass, longtime Congresswoman and state leader, about to take the stage there in Hollywood to speak to her supporters out there. Looks like a crowd has gathered there in Hollywood. We've been watching Leslie Marin bring us reports here from this crowd all night long. Congresswoman Bass believes if the race moves to November, she will have more support come her way to close the spending gap between her and her opponent. Looks like right now, as we see the numbers, 41% for her opponent, real estate developer Rick Caruso, and 38% for Karen Bass.
Indeed, Kevin De Leon getting only 7% of the vote tonight, so it looks like the top two contenders heading into November will be Rick Caruso and Karen Bass. And as you saw there moments ago, Karen Bass slowly making her way to the podium to speak to her supporters there, where our Leslie Maring has been reporting live from tonight.
Yeah, Rick Caruso has really made it a point to hammer home the point that he wants to win outright tonight. And if he gets more than 50% of the vote, he will be able to do that. But if not, it will be probably Rick Caruso and Congresswoman Karen Bass in the November general election.
Right now, only 39% of the precincts reporting back to us, so anything can happen in the overnight hours as more and more votes get tallied and counted there at the registrar's office. But right now, as you see here, these were the numbers really early on, Susie. Early on in our newscast, we had Caruso at 41%, Karen Bass at 38%, still holding strong there as the vote totals keep going up, but that percentage still stays the same, so anything can happen in the next few hours or so. But it does appear that Kevin De Leon will not be moving on to November.
Yeah, with just 7% tonight, he failed to gain much traction in the mayor's contest. City Councilman Kevin De Leon, he was once one of the most powerful politicians in the state as leader of the state Senate. But it looks like tonight, at least for the race for LA mayor, Kevin De Leon was 7%. Billionaire real estate developer Rick Caruso in the lead right now with 41%, and Congresswoman Karen Bass with 38%.
And let's not forget Rick Caruso putting in $40 million of his own dollars to help fuel his campaign. He said he came from a low 6% in regards to support, and now look at him with the 41%. So a lot has changed, a lot of money spent. And again, we spoke to some of our experts just moments ago. They said as long as both candidates, both Karen Bass and Rick Caruso, stay on message and stay positive, that is going to really make a world of difference come November.
Yeah, well, Mayor Eric Garcetti is now termed out. And again, City Attorney Mike Furor dropped out of the race, endorsing Congresswoman Karen Bass. And City Councilman Joe Buscaino, also another big name in this, also dropped out. Let's go now to hear Congresswoman Karen Bass speaking.
Here she is.
Michael, my son-in-law, and Henry, my grandson, you have been at my side every step of the way on this journey that we began. How are we doing, LA? Now, we don't have the final numbers yet, but let me tell you, I have a feeling that we're going to do very well tonight. And honored and blessed to know that you have my back and I have yours, LA. Tonight, we're seeing the voters make a clear choice. They want leadership who is battle-tested, mission-driven, and who always fights for LA's values. Tonight, the city will see that it's hard to defeat a people-powered campaign. It's hard to defeat passionate door knockers, no matter how much money is spent. And it's hard to defeat folks who are committed to a cause, not just a candidate. Yeah. All of us stood strong against an onslaught, a $45 million onslaught to be exact, spent by a billionaire. It's all of the community organizations that fueled this campaign, that walked precincts, made thousands of calls, that are at the heart of this campaign and will carry us over the finish line. This is a campaign about the strength and power that must be marshaled against the so many crises that we face. Strength and power can only come from the power of the people. Every stripe of the rainbow that is Los Angeles. This is our strength. You are our strength. And together we will make a city, a place where you can afford to live, where you want to live. because you feel safe, because the air you breathe is clean, and because people are no longer dying on our streets. But not with empty promises from the past, but through a bold path forward. So look, Angelenos know the difference between a soundbite and a solution, and so do I. From treating uninsured patients in county ER to organizing neighbors to fight crime. But you know,
all right, listening there to Congresswoman Karen Bass. We want to go now to the Rick Caruso campaign. He is also stepping up to the podium. Another top vote getter tonight in the race for LA mayor. There you see shaking hands and hugging supporters there as he heads out towards the podium. I believe this is his son there, Susie, as he heads towards the podium. A man who spent $40 million of his own money to make it this far. He's now going to make his way to the podium to greet his supporters. But before that, he's doing a lot of hugging and kissing. Yes.
Yeah. He's actually made the primary one of the most expensive elections in the country. Let's listen now to Rick Caruso.
What a crowd. I don't know about you, but I'm having a lot of fun tonight, so I hope you're having a lot of fun. Sweet Alice, right in the front row. 40 years. 40 years, Sweet Alice, you and I working together. We got 40 more ahead of us. Hey, I want to thank everybody for being here today, and I just want to say what we're all thinking. I love LA. We have a lot to celebrate tonight. I have a lot to be grateful for. I'm first grateful to my incredible family, my wonderful wife of 37 years, Tina, my son, Justin, my daughter Gianna, my son Greg, and my son Alex. I can tell you what I've learned is when one serves, we all serve. And we are all in this together, and without their support and their love and their encouragement and their counsel, I could not have done it without you. I love each of you, and I love you all, so thank you very much. And I love all of you, my friends, who have worked so hard to get me here tonight. I'm grateful for the people that have supported our campaign. From Sweet Alice, to my pal Snoop Dogg, to Omar Rodriguez at the barbershop. Omar's terrific, to Bradley in Koreatown, and on and on. And let me tell you, one of the things I've loved about running for mayor is I've been so warmly welcomed into the Latino community, the Black community, the Filipino community, the Thai, the Korean, the Bangladesh, and on and on. It is truly one of the most wonderful feelings to be so warmly welcomed and to have this experience in my life. I feel so blessed. But let me tell you why I think this is such a great night, beyond the fact we are doing so well tonight. This is a great night because so many people have gone to the voting booth and they've sent a message. We are not helpless in the face of our problems. We will not allow this city to decline. We will no longer accept excuses. We have the power to change direction of Los Angeles, and that's the way we're voting. I frequently hear and read how divided people are, but what I found out is that people share so much in common. They're upset about the problems of homelessness. They're upset about the problems of crime, corruption, but they're also upset that our city government seems to accept these problems as if life has to be this way. What voters are saying tonight is no, it doesn't. It does not have to be this way. Now, when I started go for it. I want to remind people that only a couple months ago, only 6% of the people knew who I was. How are we doing tonight? And it's not because I'm some political genius. It's because we've been proposing practical solutions for very complex problems that people understand. We've been listening to people around the city. This is an important moment in the history of our city. Angelenos feel unheard. They feel left out. They feel worried and hopeless. But as I have traveled around and as I have listened, I am hopeful, I am confident that we can change, and change will happen. Yes, we will, Sweet Alice. I feel hopeful listening to Sweet Alice and Omar and everybody I've talked to, children, parents, business people, entrepreneurs, artists. There's a love for this city that's deep in their hearts. Angelenos are good people, hardworking people, proud and committed to work together to get this city back on track. Loving people who want to be heard, tired of excuses from career politicians, but they're still eager to help. I believe in the good of our city, the strength, the courage, the hope to dream and celebrate our greatest strength, our diversity. This is what I love about this city. It's our people, it's our diversity. It's the fact that we have 224 languages spoken in the city of Los Angeles. That's something to celebrate. More than anything else, it's the big thing we have in common. The shared belief that anything is possible, anything, and I believe that. So this is a great awakening. Our big, beautiful city needs our help. We are the greatest city in the most incredible nation on earth, but we can't proclaim that our city is the greatest if we don't offer our homeless a better path forward, if we allow people to live in their own waste and die in the streets, if we tolerate corrupt officials, if we allow crime to suffocate our communities and spiral out of control, and if we don't allow second chances for those who deserve it. This city is a family, and at times we raise our voices like all good families when there's different perspectives. But as with all good families, we want to be united in purpose and united in hope. We want to strip away our differences and proclaim out loud what unites us, not what divides us. As I have spent the last few months campaigning.
All right, that was LA mayoral candidate Rick Caruso speaking from one of his developments, in fact, tonight, The Grove, sounding very optimistic and cheery about his run for office in November. He will probably be joining Congresswoman Karen Bass.
Yeah, both of them keeping it very positive tonight. No personal attacks and focused on the issues as both these two top candidates move now towards November.
Yeah. Well, another big race tonight, the top cop in LA County.
That's right. Sheriff Alex Villanueva is in a tight race tonight. Currently, Sheriff Villanueva with 31% of the vote there. That's 182,000 votes so far. Former Long Beach Police Chief Robert Luna has emerged also as another top contender with 27% of the vote right now. And in third place right now, Lieutenant Eric Strong. He has 13% of the vote. Again, if it's just up to these numbers right here, the top two contenders will face each other off in November. So it's going to look like that's going to be Sheriff Alex Villanueva and Robert Luna. KCAL9 senior reporter Ross Palumbo live in East LA tonight at Villanueva headquarters. Ross.
Well, Juan and Susie, I can tell you, it's very loud in here because they are celebrating. The sheriff just took to the stage a few moments ago talking about the numbers, saying that he certainly expected to be ahead at this point. He's going to wait for the rest of the night to see if they get to 50%. He believes that they are. The sheriff, though, taking a little bit of a negative turn, speaking against the entire Board of Supervisors, speaking out against the other 8 candidates in the race, speaking out against George Gascon tonight, also speaking out against the entire Democratic Party. You know, the sheriff has been successful in the past in his 2018 race because he was seen as a disruptor, someone different to come in and herald in a new era for LASD. Tonight, that disruption continues, and the sheriff saying that that is why he has been so successful, because he is different. He told this crowd here tonight that he is here for the people. He's not here for any other elected officials. And he's not here to do it the way anyone has done in the past, and that, he believes, is the secret to his success. Out here live, right now, you can see this party is still going. All these people confident that the sheriff is not only going to come out on top, but make it to 50%. Just a few moments ago, the sheriff going back upstairs to watch the rest of those returns come in. And Juan and Susie, I can tell you, he is more confident now than ever before he's going to make it to 50%. Of course, we're here for the long term. We'll be here as long as the sheriff is, and bring it to you all night long tonight, though. That's the very latest live in East LA. Juan and Susie, back to you.
All right, Ross, thanks so much. The former police chief in Long Beach is giving Sheriff Villanueva a run for his money tonight.
Yeah, that's right. KCAL9's Rick Montanez live at Chief Robert Luna's home, where his team is celebrating the results tonight. Rick?
Excitement here in Long Beach at the home of Robert Luna, the former police chief for the city of Long Beach, now in second place as these numbers are coming in the race for LA County Sheriff. I want to bring in Robert Luna to talk with us about how you're feeling for tonight as we see these numbers come in.
I'm feeling good. It's early. We still have a ways to go. Very cautiously optimistic, but I'm excited. I'm excited because it sounds like the voters have sent a very strong message that they want change with the sheriff.
And we saw Sheriff Villanueva was talking earlier, talking about numbers looking good for him, but the race is still very close and it's still very early.
It is very close and it's very early. So my personality, I mean, I'd like to wait a little bit longer before I'm saying, hey, let's move forward. But yeah.
3.5 decades in law enforcement. We have you here with family and friends, your close supporters. What does this night mean to you to be here and to see these numbers showing up for you this way?
It reminds me that it's about family. It's about teamwork. I didn't get here by myself, and everyone who's here behind me from many, many years ago has been part and made me successful. And that's what it's about at the end of the day.
And if these numbers hold up, then it seems like you'll be in a race for the next election.
And I'm looking forward to that next election and running a very good, strategic, and clean race.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. We appreciate it. Of course, the people here are excited for that to happen as well. So again, we're in Long Beach with Robert Luna's celebration tonight. They're hoping for the numbers to keep trending upward, and we'll just keep an eye on them. Let's go back to you.
And the top two candidates tonight. All right, thanks so much, Rick. Now to the race for an open seat on the LA County Board of Supervisors. All of the leading candidates are currently holding public office.
All right, and let's look at those numbers tonight. Veteran State Assemblyman and Senator Bob Hertzberg right now in the lead with 36% of the vote. And then we have Lindsay Horvath, the West Hollywood City Council member. She's also had stints as mayor of that city. She is backed by outgoing Supervisor Kuehl, and she has 26% right now. And State Senator Henry Stern with 23%. Let's go to our KCAL9's Lori Perez live with the Horvath campaign tonight. Lori.
Hi, guys. Thank you to come to me. And as you can see, I'm here with Lindsay Horvath, very enthusiastic. These are your people.
I'm just so excited. I'm incredibly grateful to the voters of this district. I'm excited about bringing a new generation of leadership to the County Board of Supervisors.
And it's the race is quite competitive still at this point. You know, the numbers still coming in. Is it what you expected?
You know, we're very excited. We are taking this one step at a time, but we know that the county is ready for somebody who's ready to solve these problems, to work on practical solutions, and that's what I'm bringing to the table.
And now that it appears that there will be a runoff, at least the numbers looking the way they are now, will you do anything to change your strategy in the months to come?
We are going to keep focused on building our diverse coalition of support. We are focusing on local solutions to the problems that people are facing. We're going to continue meeting people where they are. We're going to continue focusing on homelessness and keeping people safe in their communities. Those are the top priorities no matter where we go. We also have the existential threat of climate change, and we need to focus on making sure our sustainability plan is funded and make sure that we're meeting people where they are with the services that the county is supposed to deliver at the local level.
Tell me what you have learned along the trail at this point.
What we've learned is that, there are a lot of different kinds of people in LA County who are looking for help, and that's what they're counting on the county to deliver. There are so many people who rely on the county's services. The county is the last resort that they turn to, and so we have a responsibility to make sure that we're showing up for people who need it the most, and not asking our most challenged residents to sometimes navigate 4 different departments to get what they need. We need to go out of the Hall of Administration, go out onto the streets and deliver that change, and I'm ready to do it.
And you and I have talked about how important this seat is, and maybe something that people don't always recognize, right? It's not a real sexy position maybe, but talk about how impactful and why people should care so much about who fills this seat.
You know, the county has a $40 billion annual budget. There are over 100,000 employees working tirelessly day in and day out to make sure that people are cared for. So who holds this seat and how we direct those resources is essential to how we create change. I'm looking forward to working with the people in the county. I'm working to make sure that those resources get into the places that are needing it the most right now.
Lindsay, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Live in West Hollywood, where the party is just getting started. Back to you.
All right, thanks so much, Lori. Results from the major statewide races. In the race for governor, Gavin Newsom didn't face any major challengers this year after he easily beat back last year's recall. He easily advances and will go on to the election in November, a heavy favorite against Republican Brian Daley.
And in the Attorney General's race, Democrat Rob Bonta, who was appointed to the job last year by Governor Newsom, he is the Liberal incumbent and the only Democrat in this race tonight. He is with 58% of the vote right now, and he's running for a full term. He moves on easily, and Republican Nathan Hochman, a former federal prosecutor, is in second with 17%, and Republican Eric Early is currently in third with 15% of the vote. Now, as we head to break, a look at some of the other races across California tonight. Our primary coverage continues just ahead here on KCAL9 News at 10.
Get the CBS Los Angeles app on any device. Local news, sports, weather, video on demand, and CBS News Los Angeles, all in just one tap. Download now.
You know, it has been a time of change and uncertainty, but through it all, one thing remains the same.
Our commitment to bringing you the facts with honest, straightforward reporting.
And at CBS, we are part of a proud tradition, reporting the news with integrity.
And we'll continue to ask the tough questions, and we're committed to finding answers.
So as things continue to change, stay connected, stay informed.
Stay with CBS2 News at 5 and 6.
And the CBS Evening News at 6:30.
The CBS News app, streaming CBS News Los Angeles.
And KCAL9.
What does that mean?
Hundreds of firefighters.
Oh no! Only on KCAL9.
CBS News Los Angeles and KCAL9. Streaming on the CBS News app and Pluto TV.
Got your phone handy? Of course you do. Scan this right here. Download the CBS LA app. And just like that, you're connected to all the best local news and videos. Now, if only everything were this easy.
Of course, one of the most important races tonight, of course, in the city of Los Angeles is the race for mayor. Our Tom Wade joins us live from Rick Caruso's camp in the Grove with more. Hi, Tom.
Hi there, Susie. Well, the party is still going here at the Grove, of course, one of Caruso's most iconic properties. Take a live look. Caruso just out here a short time ago, and you might notice on the ground there's a lot of confetti. That's because there was some confetti cannons that just shot out a bunch of the stuff here out onto this courtyard. So, you know, the speech was very much about optimism, about talking about change and sending a message. He said that the voters obviously want a different kind of LA, an LA that's coming out of decline, that no one wants to live in a city where people cannot get off the streets and where people are trapped in a situation that is not of their own making. And he said he wants a compassionate leadership, and he vowed to go on fighting and to finally win the race. Take a listen.
And let me tell you, one of the things I've loved about running for mayor is I've been so warmly welcomed into the Latino community, the Black community, the Filipino community, the Thai, the Korean, the Bangladesh, and on and on. It is truly one of the most wonderful feelings to be so warmly welcomed and to have this experience in my life. I feel so blessed.
And one of the things that Caruso talked about was the fact that he was only at 6% in the first polls that came out in this race, and he was able to bring his poll numbers up a lot. Of course, he did that by spending $40 million in this race, but he seemed very happy with the results tonight. He seemed very happy with the direction of the results. And of course, the people here, his supporters, are as well. One final thing, he said, this really isn't about ideology, and he really wanted to stress that, bring that home. And he wanted to just say that, politics should not be at play here. Of course, that's not necessarily the case, but he left the stage looking very optimistic about what happens going forward. Reporting live in the Fairfax District at the Grove, I'm Tom Waite, KCAL9 News. Back to you in the studio.
And we've been seeing both candidates for LA Mayor keeping it very positive tonight. All right. Thank you so much, Tom Waite, live from the Grove. And more election coverage ahead. The race for a seat in the U.S. Senate, plus California congressional races shaping the balance of power.
Results and analysis when we return here on KCAL9 News at 10.
Get the CBS Los Angeles app on any device. Local news, sports, weather, video on demand, and CBS News Los Angeles, all in just one tap. Download now.
It has been a time of change and uncertainty, but through it all, one thing remains the same.
Our commitment to bringing you the facts with honest, straightforward reporting.
And at CBS, we are part of a proud tradition, reporting the news with integrity.
And we'll continue to ask the tough questions, and we're committed to finding answers.
So as things continue to change, stay connected, stay informed.
Stay with CBS2 News at 5 and 6.
And the CBS Evening News at 6:30.
Well, as we mentioned, a close race tonight between all the different people who are running. But one of the most important races that we can tell you about tonight is a super visceral race in District 3. Let's go now to our Leslie Marine live in downtown LA with a look. Hi, Leslie.
Hi, Susie. Yeah, we're actually in Hollywood where we are covering Karen Bass and the mayoral race. And, Karen, she's actually mingling amongst the crowd right now. We just spoke to her for a bit, one-on-one, talking about how she feels tonight. She said she was thankful, she was humble, and she called her campaign a campaign of the people. She also called out Rick Caruso and the amount of money that he spent, nearly $40 million on his campaign. She also talked about possibly becoming the mayor and what that would mean, and the historic moment that she would be the first black female mayor to run the city of Los Angeles, saying that is quite a moment, and she again is very humbled by getting this far. But she also talked about this is only half the race, half the battle, because now, as numbers are still coming in, the prediction is, of course, as it has been, that it will be a runoff between Bass and Caruso towards the end. And still, the votes very close. They are both neck and neck. And she acknowledged that, saying that she wants to look at where she's lacking with voters and what she needs to get people to support her and her campaign. But you can see people still continue to mingle out here in Hollywood on this rooftop. Pretty glamorous event. We also heard from Tiffany Haddish. It seems like we do have some sound earlier from Karen Bass. Take a listen.
Oh, well, going forward means that we have to bring together all of the people around the city and have the type of very diverse grassroots campaign that we always plan to have. We started the first phase of it, and now we'll be able to become much, much, much bigger. It's time for unity. And we are going to build the Los Angeles of the future. We're in a fight for the soul of our city, and we are going to win the fight.
Well, you can see Karen Bass was joined by her family on stage, something that she cherishes, a moment she says she won't forget, as she stood up there actually dancing with her nephew by her side, or her grandson, I should say, by her side. I will tell you, like I said, we had some star power out here. Tiffany Haddish. We also had former Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa, as well as City Attorney Mike Feuer, all speaking in support of Karen Bass. That's the latest here from Hollywood. Leslie Marine, back to you guys in studio.
All right, Leslie, thanks so much. And next here at 10, we'll have a check of the weather. A live look outside tonight. Rising temperatures and a high fire danger across much of our area. Evelyn Taft's forecast when we come back.
And we catch up with legendary female boxer Christy Martin, who has a new book on her groundbreaking career. Jamie Maggio has that coming up tonight on Sports Central.
from more races. Stay with us. We'll be right back. You're watching KCAL9 News at 10.
You know, it has been a time of change and uncertainty, but through it all, one thing remains the same.
Our commitment to bringing you the facts with honest, straightforward reporting.
And at CBS, we are part of a proud tradition, reporting the news with integrity.
And we'll continue to ask the tough questions, and we're committed to finding answers.
So as things continue to change, stay connected, stay informed.
Stay with CBS2 News at 5 and 6.
And the CBS Evening News at 6:30.
Get the CBS Los Angeles app on any device. Local news, sports, weather, video on demand, and CBS News Los Angeles, all in just one tap. Download now.
The CBS News app, streaming CBS News Los Angeles.
And KCAL9.
What does that mean?
Hundreds of firefighters.
Oh no! Only on KCAL9.
CBS News Los Angeles and KCAL9. Streaming on the CBS News app and Pluto TV.
Well, you know, we've been in the studio all day long, but it was hot out there, actually.
It was hot.
Susie.
You know, when
We
it
didn't
gets hot out there, like really hot out there, Evelyn, it gets hot in the studio.
Right?
Mhm.
Exactly.
Or not.
And sometimes when it gets too hot, even hotter than that hot, it gets cold.
Then we're in trouble.
It's true. Because then they pump up the air. And then you're like, I'm freezing. But anyways, I digress. Yes, it is very hot. We've got some air conditioning going here in the studio, but sometimes it gets a little toasty too. And of course, that's always the case at home. Let's get a look at our watches warnings. We do have heat advisories now up, excessive heat warnings and excessive heat watches that could turn into warnings as soon as tomorrow. So here's what you need to know. The warming trend continues. That marine layer is starting to shrink. Peak heat on Friday and record temperatures will be a possibility. Temperatures this evening in the 60s and the 70s. And so we get a look at wind speeds right now. Double digits as we head to Lancaster and Palm Springs. Wind has died down a little bit. Temperatures, though, are on the up and up. Take a look at highs for tomorrow. Bird's eye view. You'll see Palm Springs at 107, Victorville 100, Lancaster 99, downtown 77, and LAX 72 degrees. So high pressure continues to build into Southern California, and as it does, temperatures will continue to warm over the coming days. Let's get a look at those numbers right here, and you'll see 80s and 90s for the basin in Orange County. As we check in with our inland valleys, we're going to start it off right here with the 90s tomorrow, mid-90s by Thursday, mix of 80s and 90s over the weekend. Remember, Friday being our warmest day with triple digits. Friday, Saturday, and then cooler Sunday, Monday, and warmer again Tuesday next week. Susie, Juan, stay cool.
That's hot.
Do our best, Evelyn. Thank you so much. And thank you for watching KCAL9 News at 10.
Get the CBS Los Angeles app on any device. Local news, sports, weather, video on demand, and CBS News Los Angeles, all in just one tap. Download now.
You know, it has been a time of change and uncertainty, but through it all, one thing remains the same.
Our commitment to bringing you the facts with honest, straightforward reporting.
And at CBS, we are part of a proud tradition, reporting the news with integrity.
And we'll continue to ask the tough questions, and we're committed to finding answers.
So as things continue to change, stay connected, stay informed.
Stay with CBS2 News at 5 and 6.
And the CBS Evening News at 6:30.
The CBS News app, streaming CBS News Los Angeles.
And KCAL9.
What does that mean?
Hundreds of firefighters.
Oh no! Only on KCAL9.
CBS News Los Angeles and KCAL9. Streaming on the CBS News app and Pluto TV.
Got your phone handy? Of course you do. Scan this right here. Download the CBS LA app. And just like that, you're connected to all the best local news and videos. Now, if only everything were this easy.
Breaking news, Rick Caruso and Karen Bass headed for an LA mayoral runoff. And in the LA County Sheriff's race, who's giving Villanueva big competition for his job?
Get the CBS Los Angeles app on any device. Local news, sports, weather, video on demand, and CBS News Los Angeles, all in just one tap. Download now.
You know, it has been a time of change and uncertainty, but through it all, one thing remains the same.
Our commitment to bringing you the facts with honest, straightforward reporting.
And at CBS, we are part of a proud tradition, reporting the news with integrity.
And we'll continue to ask the tough questions, and we're committed to finding answers.
So as things continue to change, stay connected, stay informed.
Stay with CBS2 News at 5 and 6.
And the CBS Evening News at 6:30.
Live from the CBS Broadcast Center in Los Angeles, this is CBS2 News at 11 p.m.
Strength and power can only come from the power of the people.
The light at the end of the tunnel is shining bright tonight.
Now at 11 and streaming on CBS News Los Angeles, the big races for LA Mayor and LA County Sheriff turn into two candidate battles for November. Good evening, everyone. I'm Pat Harvey. The votes are still being counted for California's primary, and all the major races will be heading to a runoff election in November. In the race for LA City Mayor, Rick Caruso, who spent a record $40 million of his own money, is in the lead. You can look at the numbers there with more than, 39% of the precincts reporting. Congresswoman Karen Bass has 38%. Rick Caruso has 41%. And since no one got more than 50% of the vote tonight, they will face off in November. The other big local contest that we're looking at is the LA County Sheriff's race. Current Sheriff Alex Villanueva has 32% of the vote, with just about a third of the votes counted. Former Long Beach Police Chief Robert Luna has 27% of the vote. Sheriff's Lieutenant Eric Strong is rounding out third place with 13%. Now, the top two candidates will also face off in November. We have a team of reporters for you covering the big races, beginning with CBS2 political reporter Tom Waite, who's at Rick Caruso's election night party at the Grove. Tom?
Hi there, Pat. Well, it was a very intense speech. It was emotional. It was upbeat. Rick Caruso very pleased with where he stands tonight in the numbers as they come in. Let's take a look at some video. This is of the billionaire developer taking the stage with his family. Very proud of the way the vote turned out. As he came to the stage, the speech began. He talked about how he wanted to be a change maker, how he was optimistic that he could rescue a city in decline, and he could do it with the help of LA voters.
I frequently hear and read how divided people are, but what I found out is that people share so much in common. They're upset about the problems of homelessness. They're upset about the problems of crime, corruption, but they're also upset that our city government seems to accept these problems as if life has to be this way. What voters are saying tonight is no, it doesn't.
And there you have it, Caruso coming off the stage with quite an impressive confetti party after his speech wrapped up. He told his audience that he knows tomorrow is a new day, that he needs to push forward with his campaign because it's just beginning in a new phase now. He will take on Karen Bass if these numbers hold up in the general election in November. It will be very interesting to see, of course, how much money he continues to spend as he pours his fortune into this campaign to win the mayor's office. Reporting live here in the Fairfax district, I'm Tom Waite. Pat, back to you.
All right, thanks so much, Tom. Well, our team coverage continues now with CBS2's Leslie Marin. Leslie is at Bass's election night party in the city of Hollywood. Leslie.
Pat, we did hear from Karen Bass as she was surrounded by her family, including her grandson. She said it was quite a moment to be up there with them. But she also touched on some key points in her speech. She was very optimistic, saying that she has the experience to do the job, and also taking jab at how much money Rick Caruso has spent, saying that this election can't be bought. Take a listen to what she said.
Oh, well, going forward means that we have to bring together all of the people around the city and have the type of very diverse grassroots campaign that we always plan to have. We started the first phase of it, and now we'll be able to become much, much, much bigger. It's time for unity. And we are going to build the Los Angeles of the future. We're in a fight for the soul of our city, and we are going to win the fight.
Well, Bass, as you can see, was joined on stage by her entire family, introduced by her daughter Yvette, who said she and her husband were the first to encourage Bass to run for mayor. There was also some major star power here, including comedian Tiffany Haddish, and former Mayor Antonia Villaraigosa was also here, back out here live. You can see people still mingling right now. The message Bass telling supporters is celebrate tonight, but get ready for the battle ahead, as this race was neck and neck and continues to be tonight. She also said she wants to focus on the voter turnout, especially the young voters. Reporting live from Hollywood, Leslie Marin, CBS 2 News.
All right, thanks so much, Leslie. And the other big race, the top cop for LA County. Sheriff Alex Villanueva has 32% of the vote. Former Long Beach Police Chief Robert Luna has 27%, and that's with a third of the votes counted. Our CBS 2 senior reporter Ross Palumbo is live in East LA now, where the current sheriff is watching results come in. Still partying, huh, Ross?
Well, Pat, this party is still kicking out here tonight. That's because Sheriff Alex Villanueva and his supporters believe they are going to get to 50% of the vote when all the ballots are counted. But as it looks at this moment, it seems the sheriff is going to be going to a November election and facing the former police chief of Long Beach, Robert Luna. The sheriff just taking to the stage a few moments ago, speaking and unloading an entire laundry list of grievances. The sheriff bashing all 8 candidates who ran against him, including Robert Luna. He's also speaking out against George Gascon tonight, the entire LA Board of Supervisors, and even the Democratic Party. He also spoke tonight about all the controversies that have been swirling around his campaign.
You think how you handle these controversies is why you've done so well tonight?
I think the people understand what's going on.
How do you think you'll do against Luna if he is the other candidate and there is a runoff?
If it's a runoff, I look forward to the challenge, and they're not going to fare well.
I got a ton of support out there. How many phone calls I made, and people who didn't know me, and we spent at times up to 30 minutes, 45 minutes on the phone. I've gotten to know some extraordinary people in the county, and if I become sheriff, and I anticipate I will, those relationships are going to be very important to public safety in the county of Los Angeles.
Again, at this hour, when we look at the numbers that we currently have, it does look like Luna will be facing Villanueva in November, but all the ballots haven't been counted, and the sheriff's team does believe they're going to get to 50%. You know, the sheriff's campaign has been entirely controversial over the last 2 months, and Pat, we have been covering it closely. It was just tonight, though, for the first time that the Villanueva campaign accused us of being unfair and refused at first to let us into this event, despite the fact that they've never pointed out any errors or problems with our coverage in the past. In the end, though, Pat, they did let us in, and the sheriff did ultimately speak with us, as you just saw. No matter what his critics say, the sheriff certainly does respond and tell his side of the story in the end. For now, it's very latest live from East LA. I'm Ross Palumbo. Pat, back to you.
All right, thank you, Ross. I'm glad you got that interview. Now, where does your ballot go after you vote? It's off to LA County's Registrar's Central Tally Operations Center in Downey. It's busy out there with votes being counted late into the night, but it's not as busy as it normally is on election nights because of low voter turnout. CBS 2's Joy Benedict is inside the Tally Operations Center. Joy, what do you have?
Yeah, it really is crunch time, Pat, for so many who are here. We've been talking about these numbers that have been scrolling at the bottom of your screen all night long, but you have to remember there's still hundreds of thousands of ballots that have yet to be counted, and that's exactly what they're doing here behind us. This is very serious stuff. We're not allowed in that room. Everybody has to be certified to be in there. As you can see, those tally machines working, and they have been working for about an hour now. But that is because voters did turn out today. And here is some video from earlier from last-minute voters trying to get that vote in before 8 p.m. tonight. And you can see this particular location there that we were at in Sherman Oaks was pretty busy. In fact, every location voting site was full in that room. But as of today, it looks like they're seeing about 19% voter turnout for this election. That's a 5.6 million who are registered to vote before the deadline. Most of those votes were coming in by vote by mail. They had about 800,000 of those before 5 p.m. today. But of course, any vote by mail ballot that arrives with a postmark of today will, of course, be counted in person during this voting period. They had 243,000 people vote in person because of this election. Talking to folks that were out there voting today, for many of them, they say it was important to vote in person, but they say the most important thing of all was just to let their voice be heard.
Because there's a lot of bad stuff happening in the world right now, and I guess to try and find the right people to fix those problems. It's pretty depressing being like a young person and like seeing like the world burning around you in like so many different ways, and like hopefully like the small changes make a difference.
What are your biggest issues of concern?
Probably for crime reduction and homelessness reduction as well.
The homelessness and crime, because it seemed because of COVID, it seemed like people have lost their minds, and things that wouldn't have happened 4 years ago is happening now.
A lot of people demanding change, and a lot of them saying it is the local elections that they cared about the most when they came out to vote today. Things like the mayoral office, the sheriff, things of that nature, because they want change in their own neighborhood. Pat?
All right, thanks so much, Joy. Well, in the race for an open seat on the LA County Board of Supervisors tonight, veteran state assemblyman and Senator Bob Hertzberg is in the lead right now with 36% of the vote. In West Hollywood, Council member Lindsay Horvath is bringing up the second position at 26%, and shortly, we're closely behind her, State Senator Henry Stern. He has 23% of the vote right now. And in the race for governor, Gavin Newsom didn't face any major challenges this year after he easily beat back last year's recall. Governor Newsom tweeted tonight, in fact, California is the antidote, leading with compassion, common sense, and science, treasuring diversity, defending democracy, and protecting our planet. Here's to continuing that fight, and as you saw there, he has 2/3 of the vote. Ahead at 11, an interview that you will only see on CBS2.
Boom, just like that. It was everything. It was windows shattered, rocks come in the house.
A heroic rescue from a burning plane after a backyard crash landing. Plus, the gun store controversy sparking a protest tonight at the steps of Burbank City Hall. Also speaking out, the local mother who survived a violent hit and run. She speaks out about the driver not getting any jail time.
And we're getting a look outside right now at Santa Monica. Temperatures really heating up. Record-breaking heat and heat watches and warnings now going up. We'll break it all down when we come back.
Get the CBS Los Angeles app on any device. Local news, sports, weather, video on demand, and CBS News Los Angeles, all in just one tap. Download now.
You know, it has been a time of change and uncertainty, but through it all, one thing remains the same.
Our commitment to bringing you the facts with honest, straightforward reporting.
And at CBS, we are part of a proud tradition, reporting the news with integrity.
And we'll continue to ask the tough questions, and we're committed to finding answers.
So as things continue to change, stay connected, stay informed.
Stay with CBS2 News at 5 and 6.
And the CBS Evening News at 6:30.
The CBS News app, streaming CBS News Los Angeles.
And KCAL9.
What does that mean?
Hundreds of firefighters.
Oh no! Only on KCAL9.
CBS News Los Angeles and KCAL9. Streaming on the CBS News app and Pluto TV.
Got your phone handy? Of course you do. Scan this right here. Download the CBS LA app. And just like that, you're connected to all the best local news and videos. Now, if only everything were this easy.
Returning to the primary election tonight in the Attorney General's race, Democrat Bob Bonta, who was appointed to the job last year, is running for a full term, and he moves on easily, as you can see there, with 57% of the vote. Republican Nathan Huckman is in second with 17%. Fellow Republican Eric Early rounds out the third position with 15%. And in the U.S. Senate race, Alex Padilla, who was appointed to the job last year when Senator Kamala Harris became vice president, is running to serve out the rest of the term. That ends in January, and a full 6-year terms after that. But Padilla, as you can see, takes the win in the short-term election with more than 50% of the vote. And in the race for the full 6-year term, Alex Padilla will face Republican Mark Muser in the general election in November. Padilla received 57% of the vote. Muser has 13%, followed by Cordy Williams, who is in third. And in the Bay Area, a closely watched race to oust San Francisco's progressive district attorney. Early results show the effort has worked, with 60% voting to recall Chesa Boudin. Well, tonight we are hearing from the mother at the center of a closely watched case. She was outraged when the driver who slammed into her and her baby didn't get any jail time. The teenage driver instead got sentenced to several months in a youth camp. The crash happened last August in Venice. Both the mother and child survived. The driver, who was 16 at the time, struck them and then took off. Tonight, the mother, who only wanted to go by her first name, Rachel, appeared on Tucker Carlson Live on Fox News and talked about her disappointment in Gascon.
I voted for this guy because I believe that, our prisons do need some reform, but rewarding criminals, violent criminals for their actions is very far from any kind of reformation that anybody would think is appropriate.
Last week, the DA's office gave us a statement that said, in part, the decisions made in this case were based on the facts and the law. We stand by the purpose of the juvenile justice system to rehabilitate young people. Well, the growing number of gun stores is becoming a major issue in the city of Burbank. In fact, this evening, protesters met on the steps of Burbank City Hall. They called on the city council to curb the number of gun stores opening up in Burbank. There are now 14 stores, which they say is more per capita than almost anywhere else in the country. One of the stores, Gun World, is in the process of relocating further down Magnolia Boulevard. That will put it within a third of a mile from Roosevelt Elementary School, which is a concern to the protesters.
You shouldn't be able to walk outside of school, walk into a gun shop and come back. And so that does frighten me, that scares me. We need to have protections in place for our students.
The city attorney says Burbank is already working to identify their legal options. Now, a neighbor in Hemet jumped into action, grabbing his garden hose when a pilot crashed his small aircraft into his neighbor's backyard. The crash happened this morning. Eugene Barron said he heard tires skidding and a boom. The fence between him and his neighbor's yard was up in flames. The pilot was still conscious and speaking right after the crash. Barron and his neighbor pulled the pilot to safety.
I think he tried to stop, sounded like he tried to stop in the field, but he didn't make it to the field. He came across the free road and then into the backyard. I just pray that he lives because, he was a lot covered in fire.
The pilot is in critical condition. NTSB will investigate. Turning now to the weather, and here's Evelyn Taft with a look at the dangerous conditions we're facing across the Southland, Ev.
Wow, Pat, we got warmer today, and this is just the beginning of the warm-up. Temperatures aren't even peaking until Friday. Most of the Southland now blanketed in excessive heat warnings, heat advisories for the IE, and we're also under heat watches for the Santa Clarita Valley, the Antelope Valley, the LA and Ventura County mountains, and those could get elevated to warnings probably as soon as tomorrow. So most of the watches and warnings kicking in as we head into our Thursday, our Friday, and lasting through our Saturday. So here's what you need to know. The warming trend continues. This is just the beginning. That marine layer is going to shrink, and the heat is going to peak on Friday with the possibility of record-breaking numbers. For us in the Antelope Valley, we could see numbers up to 107 degrees. So that's pretty tremendous. As we get a look at temperatures right now, you'll see 60s and 70s. So we're mild, but remember that is all set to warm up over the coming days. Wind speed's a little calmer at the moment, 18 mile-per-hour winds for Lancaster. And by tomorrow, you will see we're getting up to 107 in Palm Springs. So we're just getting started in the Coachella Valley. Victorville 199, Lancaster 77 downtown, and 87 for Burbank. And as we get a look at our futurecast, high pressure continues to build across Southern California, and with that, we'll continue to see temperatures warming. Take a look at this. We're going to be in the 70s, moving up to the 80s, and we will hit the 90s and even the triple digits over the coming days for the valleys and for the Inland Empire. Pat? Back to you.
Oh, look at those hundreds.
Right?
All right, thank you, Evelyn. Well, gearing up for gridlock, why traffic around downtown LA and beyond could be a nightmare tomorrow. The CBS News app, streaming CBS News Los Angeles.
And KCAL9.
What does that mean?
Hundreds of firefighters.
Oh no! Only on KCAL9.
CBS News Los Angeles and KCAL9. Streaming on the CBS News app and Pluto TV.
Get the CBS Los Angeles app on any device. Local news, sports, weather, video on demand, and CBS News Los Angeles. All in just one tap. Download now.
The look at tonight's primary results so far in the race for LA City Mayor. Rick Caruso and Karen Bass will face off in November. Caruso has 41% of the vote, and Congresswoman Karen Bass has 38%. And in the LA County Sheriff's race, current Sheriff Alex Villanueva has 32% of the votes cast, and former Long Beach Police Chief Robert Luna comes in with 27%. In the race for an open seat on the LA County Board of Supervisors, State Senator Bob Hertzberg is in first place right now with 36% of the vote. West Hollywood Council member Lindsay Horvath has 26% and is closely followed by State Senator Henry Stern with 23%. We'll be watching these numbers all night for you. Thank you for joining us tonight. We're streaming 24/7 on CBS News Los Angeles, and we're back at 4:30 a.m. with more election coverage on CBS2 this morning. For the latest, we'll have The Late Show coming up next with Stephen Colbert, and hope to see you back here tomorrow night.
Get the CBS Los Angeles app on any device. Local news, sports, weather, video on demand, and CBS News Los Angeles. All in just one tap. Download now. Got your phone handy? Of course you do. Scan this right here. Download the CBS LA app. And just like that, you're connected to all the best local news and videos. Now, if only everything were this easy.